meeting for Monday, February 3rd, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. Janelle, if you could, call the roll, please.
Okay, Olson,
Here?
Orozco,
Here.
Laskowitz,
Here.
Aaron's,
Here.
and Berta was excused.
Okay, next up, do I have an approval for the agenda? Do I have a motion for today's agenda?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, do I have an approval for the minutes of January 6th?
So one minor amendment, page 5, line 34 and 35. It says acknowledge there are fewer parking violations committed. It should be fewer village parking violations committed.
Because I think you were talking about,
Just in the village,
Liberty
not,
Grove,
not, yeah, any, in Liberty Grove.
yeah.
Village parking, it's okay.
And then Janelle, could we add, I'm on page 4. And I am, the bullets under, the comments that, that both, Corey and Kathy gave about the community garden. I just want these both in here for reference, if nothing else. One was in terms of what they would need. One was a mulch pile,
Okay,
if we could add that. The other was soil testing.
okay,
And the third was that their point of view was they do not need raised beds. And that, gardeners could build them if they wanted to. I would say that for that garden out there, that's what they chose to do. I'm not saying that necessarily applies to a true community garden where, everyone shares it and things like that, but I just thought it could be good.
Yeah, I agree that.
It's in your Parks Department, it's a recreational
So, yeah.
thing for people.
All we're gonna use it for is, notes on, okay, wait, what did they say? What did they advise? So. Okay, okay, other than that, anybody else have anything to contribute? Okay, do we have comments, correspondence, and concerns from
We
the,
need to approve.
sorry, approve the minutes as amended for January 6, 2025.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Jerry. Comments, correspondence, and concerns from the public. If we could do those in the room first, and then we'll do Zoom. Anyone? Okay, hearing nothing. Anything from our Zoom attendees?
Yes, I have some public comments.
All right, sir, if you could identify yourself and give us your address, please.
I live at 10687 Commodore Circle. My
Is there
name
a-
is Roger. Pardon?
Sorry, I just wanted your name and you were about to give it to us. Sorry.
It's Roger Oakdale.
Okay,
And do I have 3 minutes? Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay, I'm starting my timer now. I was told by one of the board members that I could respond after you just discussed an issue. And last time we were discussing, and I don't even remember, but I tried to tell him that, and your captain there was muting me nonstop. So I didn't get to express that. But my comments can't respond to what you're doing today. They're a comment of what's been going on prior to this time. I've been trolling through the budget, and there are some very significant issues in the budget. One of them is this issue. I don't know if you can see it. But the items were pretty level through the years until this last year when it's just out of control. And that's on the 93rd page of a document. According to that budget, the property taxes were increased 1%. Well, I looked at my property taxes for the last 5 years, The first year was 1.1. The next year was 14.7. 2021 was 13. 2022 was 3.4. 2023 was 12.3. And then this year it's 10.8. So I don't know how your budget can show a 1% property tax increase. There's a limited number of us that are paying that. So I would like to set up a meeting, I guess, with Julie and I'm pressured for time here, but I want to thank you all because this, I can see the time you're putting in and the effort. And it's very onerous for anybody to volunteer for this board. But there are people in this city that know these kinds of things. A guy just retired here. He's the vice president of Peter Kiewit. Probably maybe none of you have ever heard that name, but they're the second largest contractor in the United States. And they just fielded 57 barge cranes to take that bridge down that the ship hit. And he told me he's willing to help. He did a project for the state of Iowa where he calculated the costs of every single public building in the state and what their sustainability would be, how much funding they would need. And I would like to help to get the 93 pages down to maybe 10. There's so many entries in that you just don't know what they mean. Did you have a professional outfit do that budget, or are you doing it yourself?
I think we're going to limit that, your comments, and we appreciate them, to the 3 minutes that you commented. And one recommendation I would make would be you certainly feel free to submit a letter to the village and specifically to the finance committee, which works more closely with I believe the budget document you may be looking at. I'm sorry, I couldn't tell what you were looking at on the screen. That would be one recommendation. And I know you're already a regular attendee of many of our meetings, so continuing to attend those is always a good idea. But we appreciate it. Yep. And again, I'm very sorry, but you're over your 3 minutes, so I think we're gonna leave it there.
All right. Does my wife have 3 minutes?
Well, sir, she does. Yes.
Well, let me speak for her. It'll be quick. I understand you're doing Parks and Recreation, but I've been studying Hilton Head. They have a similar situation. They have 2.5 million people that come into the city, and it's a much bigger city. It's 30,000, but they take in $3.2 billion every year in revenue, and that's the restaurants, the motels, it's everything. But I have a sheet of things where they raise money to pay for the things we are paying for. I'd like to see a separation of, we've got 6 major tourist attractions here, of which neither one of us are really interested in. And that's true of all the other people that I've talked to that are in my age group. So I think it would pay attention. I've already talked to Lars, and he's taking photographs of the information that I've pulled up. So I don't know where you're going to hear from him. But
all right, sir, I really truly appreciate your comments. However, let's keep it at that, because again, your wife did not speak. You spoke on her behalf, which is very nice. So I think we're gonna keep it there, and I would recommend that, again, you send a resolution or attend finance committee meeting, because the budgetary process starts with finance. And then certainly goes throughout the committees, and we're starting to work on the 2026 budget in about 3 months.
Well, today you're talking about building parking lots, are you not?
No, sir, we are not.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that was previous. All right. Well, I'm going to be involved with you guys on some fashion.
Okay.
So I'll say goodbye.
Well, we appreciate it. Hang on, you just probably can't say anything, but stay tuned. All right, anyone else on Zoom? No? Okay, we'll proceed. Next, first up will be item 5A, discussion about the peninsula. This will be just the Fall Challenge bike ride and parking for that. So I think we have a representative from the Pacers here. Ben, take it away.
Just before we start to, Ben, I saw
Yeah.
you handed out a 2025 map. Just so you understand, this was on the agenda to talk about what happened this past year. It's not a request for new approval,
Okay, well, I just included that in
Okay.
case we did.
just so
Right,
you know,
yeah,
so
Paul's
we.
here.
Ben's
Okay.
last name.
Fitzgerald.
Thank you.
Okay, Ben.
Well, if it's a discussion about last year, I'd like to, I guess, hear what the discussion is.
No, Ben, I think what Julie meant was that we wanted a plan for 2025
No, the,
for, I thought we wanted a plan for
Well,
2025 for asking the bikers to not park on
yeah, Denise,
Highway 42.
yeah, Denise had some concerns. She's unfortunately not at our meeting today. But she brought it up a couple months ago and we kept delaying it to try and get somebody here, I think. And
Right,
the concern, my understanding was the concerns were, the bikes parked, the cyclists parked on,
I would
Bay
put-
Shore Drive.
42, right.
And they were there all day, so the business cars couldn't park in front of the
Yeah.
businesses.
That's what it says on.
That's what this says on the
Yeah,
handout.
so that was the concern for 24.
Did he give you the handout?
I have
Yeah.
one more, I can,
Let's, you know
Yeah,
what,
so, I
he'll
mean,
explain.
Ben presented here is really clear to me.
I don't
It
think,
says on here what our request was which is what Julie said and that, Denise expressed concern about was the parking on Highway 42, right? And then, the alternate parking here that Ben presented, but we had discussed as well, that would be Mill Road and the sports complex. Yeah, that's essentially it.
so can you articulate the plan and how you, the plan to communicate to the riders, of the fall challenge, how to encourage them and direct them to park in designated parking areas aside from on 42?
yeah, so in the past, we've had, a map on our website that shows where we ask riders to park. Before they participate and while they're participating in the event, and that is at the sports complex, Mill Road, and then the public parking along Mill Road. I believe this has been included in emails in the past. We plan to just include that a couple more times this year. Make it a little bit more clear that it's one of our initiatives this year to really limit the amount of participants that park on the highway. Obviously, there's still gonna be some that don't get the messaging, but we're gonna try and make sure that everyone gets it. So we will use our emails. We have a 5,000 person email list. Everyone that's participating in the event uses that email list. And then we'll have more information on our website along with physical handouts at Rider Check-in Friday night. So yeah, we'll continue to use the Mill Road public parking, Mill Road street parking, and the sports complex.
So the rider checking, the check-in that you mentioned, that where they get their rider packet,
Yeah, a lot of them pick up Friday night, some
Okay,
pick up
so you-
Saturday morning.
like include that
Yeah.
information in the packet.
Yeah, and I want to do a digital ride guide this year. We haven't done it in the past, but that'd be something that I'll open up and it could be its own page.
That would be good, yeah, because then it's right there for them. Okay.
And then we have a lot of participants that stay in Sister Bay at lodging, Airbnbs, or with families. And we'll ask them if they can just ride from their locations on to the clubs.
Yeah, I think we have 400 people who stay
Yeah.
here. Yeah, which is great.
Again, Brian mentioned that a lot really stay at like Pheasant Park, the Door Hotel, and so, when they do stay at the hotels in Sister Bay, they pretty much walk their, bike right from there, so. We try to help push them, make them.
Well, you know what you could do, yeah, I mean, talk to Pheasant Park and talk to the door.
Yep, and we can have.
You can leave it for them at check-in.
Yeah.
That might be ideal. I mean, the Door Hotel, there's no way that they would park, they're gonna park in the hotel. parking lot,
Yeah,
they're not
you know,
gonna.
But, you
Yeah.
hope, but Pheasant Park maybe, leave it for her, for them for check-in. So explain to me again, we have to put this back on the agenda?
Well, I just want, so this isn't a request to do it this coming year, correct? Because so when they usually come in, when you come in, you always to get.
Mhm.
This is not the request for the parking lot, no, not
No,
yet.
yeah, we'll do that request later on in the year. but-
Yeah, this isn't a
No,
request
this is not
for
the
the
formal
events.
request
No.
for the waterfront park,
No.
parking spaces and the road.
But Denise wanted assurance that there was gonna be some communication to the riders now, because they're signing up now.
Yeah,
Sign
so,
up just started.
yeah, just so you remember,
Mhm.
just like last year, you have to come in and do a
Yeah.
formal
Yep.
And we
request,
did
we
not
put it on the
discuss that.
agenda.
We'll be
Yeah.
in, I think we were talking April.
Yeah.
We'll be able to do
Okay.
that.
Okay.
And it was definitely separate, so I'm sorry if it was
Yeah,
confusing.
yeah. And then we'll make sure Denise isn't here, but we'll make sure she
Okay.
gets a copy of this. If she has concerns, I guess we can bring it back.
Yeah, I don't think that you will. I mean, if we're using
it's pretty
social and we're
reasonable.
using email and we're using people, talking to people and so forth,
Yeah.
I think that would be, I don't know what else we can do.
I mean, it's simple enough, we don't have to make it that complicated, we just have to communicate.
Okay, well, we'll see what she says about
And
it.
can I,
I think we're
I
good.
think me and my dad were wondering why why the agenda item listed us with the Door County Century.
It was in typo,
Okay.
that's why. I'm sorry, I talked to your dad, I
No,
didn't
it's
talk to
okay.
you.
And
Sorry.
we were fine being listed with them as long as it was.
They're two
a
different, they're
conversation
two different
present
events.
for, but if we
That's
weren't
on me.
present for
No, it was a typo in the agenda item. The agenda item, which I guess I should have changed the agenda item as long as we're talking about that. So it was the fall challenge only.
Mhm.
The other one is a separate ride.
Yeah, I don't know, were there concerns with the Door County Century
No.
Bike Ride?
No,
Department?
Definitely
just
not.
fall
They just have an
down.
aid
Just the ball
station,
down.
their start and stop is not. in Sister
And her
Bay.
concern was definitely the fall challenge, so that's a typo on my part. Sorry. It'll never happen again then.
We, staff fixed it, she doesn't. so.
It could have been
It's
me.
our fault.
It could have been
That's
me
totally fine.
suggesting the item, anyway.
Ben, this is a great event.
Thank you.
I'm a resident member
Want to keep it?
of this committee. Most of the residents of Sister Bay are very happy to have you doing this. It's a great event. It does bring a lot of business into the community. And we really appreciate all the energy you and all the volunteers put into this. Thank you very much.
And
We love having
also, I can say for a fact that they, like, the organizers do support the local
Yeah.
businesses as well.
Yeah.
I see, Ben's dad going around getting breakfast or whatever, and food for all the volunteers and all the,
You
establishments.
see Ben
and
going to
businesses.
Husby's.
We need a ton of food. in the morning.
Yeah, oh, you do, well, that's true.
Take us out of the entire, like, I don't think it's such a.
Yeah, well, you can count on the Fitzgerald having
That
a
was-
minimum of 12 cheeseburgers each. Uh-huh.
But yeah, great event, thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
And Brian.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Up next is Mill Road East Parking, and I think that we have the folks from Mill Road Gallery. Hello.
Right, so this was on our agenda last month, as you know, the Tom Seegert and his wife Bridget Cosmo, came to us, they are here, so they can comment. They had requested the area be striped in front of their, parking area in front of their lot. And explain their concerns. We did ask they give us a diagram of what the area to be striped would look like, so we knew what type of dimensions they were talking about. They did submit that is in the packet. And they're here in case there's other questions for them.
So moved.
I did that.
It-
To approve
it-
the striping, yes.
the 55-foot long.
Okay.
So we had a motion, we
So
had a second.
discussion,
Do we need-
do we need discussion about that?
Can be done.
Anyone? That's what we're talking about.
I
So
think
discussion.
It will be done.
4 feet by 55.
Okay, so 55 feet by 4 feet, that's discussion in front of the committee.
And then from a logistics standpoint, if approved, Eric, would it just be, you'd have a list of things that need to get striped in the village, and next time you rent the striper, this is on the list?
We own a striper saw, just
Oh, we
go
own
and do, I got the paint already. As soon as the weather flips and the roads get clean, we'll just go out there and do it.
How much time will this take?
Gotta do them straight.
Probably, set up, clean up, doing the job, looking around an hour, hour and a half,
Oh, gee.
Okay,
not big. Just
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd just like to say we're very happy to still have the Sea Guards in the village. We're very happy to have an art gallery in the village. We're happy to have,
5 years, it's been a nice
I know,
time.
and we're happy to have working artists in the
I
village.
wanna do it. Oh, slow.
Yeah, so do I, but, and we're happy to have you so involved up at SCAN too, so thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have concession building addition design contract.
Okay, so we had talked about, proceeding with McMahon, the actual contract. They did agree that they would do the, design and the engineer drawings both for that same price. So that saved us quite a bit of money. I did apply for a grant on this one. We have not heard back on.
We should hear on that, by the way. I went back and looked and see, and when they announced the grant recipients, and it looks like the announcement will come right around February 20th for this one.
Okay.
Because you're the last round, right? We're the last round.
December, yeah.
Yeah, it'll come right around end of February. All right, discussion?
Looked in line with what we talked about previously, and looks like standard verbiage for that.
Right. So my question would be, this was an unbudgeted item, so let's get a little bit of history. So we're going by that building anyway, because of,
With the new lateral.
correct. So we said, okay, why not stub it out? And we've, the bays, after relocating where they did have restrooms, don't have them now, requested that we add restrooms. So, part of this we're talking about today is this agreement with McMahon to do the, now I gotta write this, I gotta see here what they're doing. So the design services as well as, engineering. The second piece of it is, I think we don't know, I don't think, do we? But we thought it might be about $100,000 to build this thing, right? Or does that include the 25?
That was including the 20.
So $75,000 to build it, but I don't think we really know that. We have the dimension of what's being built.
Yeah, so what they do is, part of what McMahon does is when they design it, then they do a cost proposal, so they kind of feel it out, or I shouldn't say feel it out, but they'll send it out to some people they know, they'll sit with their engineer and their design team, and they'll try and give their best guess of what that's gonna cost.
Okay.
They did give us that as a preliminary number,
Mhm.
back in December. But with this, then they sit down and they really look at number of toilets, price of toilets, square footage of concrete, building material. And they try to get you as accurate as possible. They usually quote a little higher than what the project is. You notice that with Parks Building, the estimate was higher than what it's actually coming in at.
Mhm.
And they do that just so you budget enough and you're aware of what the project is. So this one they had estimated would be about 75,000 with the concrete and everything involved.
Okay.
Because this require sidewalks outside the building to get to it.
Right.
So there's a little flat work involved as well.
Right. And it's gonna be on the east side. We saw that because there's.
Well, they did look at the building and, that's why I put in here, due to the infrastructure of the building and design, the addition would be located at the south end of the building instead of the east. So
Mhm.
that's in the staff report, because originally we thought it would go off the side towards the playground.
Yeah.
Once you're inside the actual concession stand building, you can't do that. It's gotta come off that south end.
Okay.
So
I don't think that's a big deal.
it's not a big deal. There's a little, we're gonna have a little fill and some drainage issues we have to look at because
It goes down.
it goes down, you got that ditch there,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
And as
where
I
like the little
recall-
bridge is.
I was just saying, as I recall, this doesn't preclude volunteers or others from working on the actual building of it. This is the requirement to have it designed in a state certified, whatever fashion.
Right, because you can't even get a permit without the engineer drawing, because it's a public building. And then on the volunteers, originally the base said they had volunteers, but then they came back at the December meeting saying they did not have volunteers, so it would have to. And that's why the grant was for the full construction cost.
Okay.
So the grant, we applied for 100,000, right?
We did. Mhm.
All right, so the way it stands right now, 25,000 for this. We won't hear about the grant till the end of Feb. If we don't get the grant, then what happens to this contract?
Well, if we don't, they would still design it so that when we do get the money, we can just proceed with
Do
it.
we have another way to get the money?
Well, we could do, we could look at different grant sources. Raybrook, that there's our small grants. We could look at some other sources for that. It could be budgeted. The Bays could fundraise for it. I think that's a really good question, I think we had talked about, this is something we had agreed to do many years ago and we just never budgeted for it. So this is, with this grant, it's really our opportunity to proceed with it.
Is there still a plan to move the lateral to the location, even if we don't get the grant? Is that already set in
Yes.
stone?
That is set in stone
Okay.
because we need that for the Parks Maintenance Building. And then ultimately
Well, I
TPH
mean,
as
that
well.
lateral
The
is going
stub.
through, I mean, the little lateral to the bathroom.
Oh, the stub?
The stuff.
The stub, since everything's gonna be open, is that stub still in play to get put in? Even
Yes.
if the grant's not. approved?
Right, so the committee said to put the stub in and then finance committee
Yeah.
authorized the financing for that stub. So,
So it's
I know
not,
Skylar made a point to like do this when the main trench line is open. and everything like
yeah,
that.
it's
So,
gonna save us money
Yeah.
down the road.
so it's not, so that's budgeted, what's not budgeted is the 100 grand, right?
Correct. The construction.
So we really don't have to make any decision today. We can wait until February when the grant comes and look at this in March.
Well, if you remember, the Bays wanted to try and have it ready for the ball for May. So if you,
We did that fast, really?
I mean, they've waited a long time. I don't know that, we talked to the Bays, I don't know that they would find that to be that. I mean, the problem I have is, as I talk to friends and neighbors, if I told them 100,000, so I might have overstated it. People are not excited after all of the turmoil we've gone through with $100,000 for 2 bathrooms.
I had a question about that. Could I ask a quick question about that? I'm sorry. to
Sure,
interrupt.
sure you can, and that's my comment.
I just want to understand that, because it says here it's 2 ADA accessible restrooms. So I walk in and I see 2 restrooms. So it's a common entrance. Or is it restroom for men, restroom for women, or 2 unisex bathrooms?
so it hasn't been designed yet. I think what you're gonna see is, probably men's with 2 stalls in there, one ADA and then women.
With 2 stalls?
Yeah.
Oh,
you should
yeah,
have
at
2
least,
stalls.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, so I
okay.
mean, you're looking at 4
okay,
toilets, basically.
okay, that's because it wasn't, I wasn't sure, okay.
Mike, I understand your concern on that, and that's why I think it was pretty clear that this had to be, we were going for the grant.
Right, I mean, that's why I think if we get a grant, we can tell people, hey, we got a grant.
Mhm.
We're getting some of our federal government money back, which we don't get a fair share of. That's easy sell.
Yeah,
I also think, because I've talked to a couple of contractors, the $25,000 for the design and engineering is high. Maybe double what other villages are getting.
well, when we put projects out for bid,
Mhm.
that's not high for our public projects, so, I mean,
I'm just talking about the $25,000 fee. There is a perception for a project this size, and I sent them pictures, gave them a few dimensions, and got feedback that.
For
everybody-
projects in Door County?
No, yes, indoor county,
'Cause Door
not,
County's
not,
different.
not in Sister Bay.
Yeah. No, I understand, okay.
if you have, just a side note, if you know contractors that can design and do project management and the engineered drawings on public buildings for under 25, send them our way, because we'd love to put them on our bid list.
Okay,
We always post it on the web, we post it on a state site as well. But if you know somebody, because the reason why we've been working with McMahon is they are the lowest bid that has been coming in. So if
Okay.
you're aware of somebody that knows public.
I would also
projects,
encourage you
yeah.
to talk to other village administrators in Southern Door.
So there are none in Southern Door, but I routinely work with the other administrators.
south, south of us.
Oh, you mean like in Brown County?
Right.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I'm not defending anybody, but for whatever reason, because we're on a peninsula,
It is higher. We know
fair
that.
game for,
Mhm. But if you notice, a lot of projects now, people are, because of the Door County cost and the Door County premium that contractors are knowing to get. We're starting to see more Brown County contractors doing business up here. There's even talk of a few of them establishing offices here.
And that's good. I know on our projects,
That's me, that's me.
I know on our projects, we had a really hard time getting people to bid on our projects.
Okay.
I will say this, one thing that I liked about working with McMahon is they actually put the bid out, they actually work with it, and for the first time, we had multiple people, like the Parks Maintenance Building, that's the most I think we've ever had somebody bid on a project.
Mm-hmm,
So they're actually, because they're putting it out on Quest,
mm-hmm.
which is, a contractor site, so it does, I mean, there's a lot of benefits to working with somebody who's actually doing the bidding for you.
Maybe their price is more competitive when you get to the larger buildings. But 25,000 for the square footage, is a lot.
Yeah, I can't tell you, but like I said, if you know somebody that can do it for cheaper, send them our way, we can definitely take.
Have them contact you.
Yeah.
A
Yeah,
lot of
we,
those contractors don't wanna do the public bidding because it takes so much paperwork and so much red tape.
Yeah, ideally, they'd like it to be bundled with the project.
but we can't. As of, I think it was 2017.
Yeah,
it was
I've
a
heard
state-
that, but I'm not hearing that signal consistently. You're an expert, I'm not.
Yeah, we have to watch that because back.
You have to have a PE, you have to meet certain requirements, but it sounds like you can have them embedded in your firm.
So you cannot do design build anymore. The person who designs it cannot be the one who's bidding it and building it. Like back in the day, let's say you'd work with Alliance, they would design it, they'd turn around and build it.
Mm-hmm,
You can't do that anymore in the state of Wisconsin if you are a public entity.
okay.
So that had that change in, I think it was 2017, might have been 14, but I think it was 17,
Okay.
2017. that
So
changed.
builders. So that would make sense. The builders have got to screw around and just, okay.
Yeah, and like you said, they don't want to mess with small projects.
Mhm.
Well, I
So
think,
what do we do? What if we do this? What if we approve this contingent upon getting the grant?
I think that's fine.
You good with that?
Mhm.
How long will this quote last for the design?
I think this was 30 days, but we would work with them. I mean, they've been very invested in Sister Bay. They're, I think they know why not work with us on a small project? And I think they know it might hurt future projects if they hardlined it because it was 15 days late or 15 beyond the thing or something. But
On page 5, it says 60 days.
60,
No, it's January 13, so January 5, so middle of March.
so we'd still be good. But effective 1/1/25, so March 1st. We should be okay, yeah.
Okay, so does this motion sound kind of like what you'd like to say? That the Parks, Property and Streets Committee recommends that the village board approve the agreement for professional services between McMahon and the village of Sister Bay that pertains to the engineering costs for the construction of an addition to the baseball field concession building. But before any construction commences, Schmelzer must first receive confirmation that the grant application she submitted or funding to help cover those costs has actually been approved.
Almost perfect. I think we're also saying we won't spend the money with McMahon until we know we have it.
Yeah, if you just say
Grant.
engineering and
Yeah.
construction costs, then that
But
covers.
that was really good.
Okay, that pertains to the engineering and construction costs?
Yeah,
You don't know the construction costs until it's engineered.
Yeah, that's.
well, but if you got the grant, we're close enough, right? So you're right. I agree.
I would just, yeah, it's
Leave
the
it in
contract
engineering.
contingent on getting the grant,
Okay.
is what I would say.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Just so people know, I think it
Could
will be
you just-
heavily used for the bays, but it's also gonna be used for anyone renting that building, because hauling things and people and seniors up the hill to go to the bathroom is really not a great situation when you've got a lot of people down whoa, we can't make that trek up the hill. So that's the big problem. I mean, it seems like it's an easy thing to run up the hill, but it's not for a lot of people.
Yeah,
that is
and
one of
that's a
the-
nice venue for parties and.
Yeah, I think it would be used more actually if it had, better facilities, right, everything was right there, so.
Okay.
Anyway, I would advocate for it, so I don't think realistically they thought it would be done this summer, being that it's already February now, we put RFPs out. I mean, I don't know that they thought, the base thought it was gonna be done for the summer. It'd be nice for people who are using it for graduation parties or whatever, if it could be by the end of the summer, maybe, but I don't know that you get the builder in here that fast, but.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay, we did all in favor, didn't we?
No,
We did.
you didn't get a motion.
So you're moving that
Okay.
and then someone's second.
All right, so do I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I do that. Okay, let's see, where we go. Next up is trail updates.
Okay, so I gave you some updates in your January packet, and Louise had asked, to be on the agenda for some additional discussion, I guess, so just, not much has changed since the January update. I have to do an RFP for the engineering on 57. I have not been able to get back to that. Did talk to the DOT again this past week on some language they want in the contract, which we include in the RFP. But bottom line with that one is we got easements, or I'm sorry, we didn't get easements yet. We had contacted everyone and we heard back from most of the people saying, yeah, we'll give you an easement. Some people said no, so it was designed, and I know we've talked about this before, but it was designed to go in the right of way in front of those properties. There were one that just wouldn't work with us, so we went in the right of way, and then one never responded after several attempts. And we finally, I told Skylar, I said, just put it in the right of way. We can't keep waiting. It can't hold us up. So
We did hear back from some, but there's a couple we didn't hear back from. Okay,
yeah, and that was, I mean, really not much had changed from the update last April. In April, as of last April, when we talked about it, there was only 2 left that we had to work with. And then by the end of the year, those 2 were still a challenge. I mean, the one just would not respond.
Mhm.
And the other one, wanted approval that he wanted certain approvals we couldn't give him.
Mhm.
So anyway, so he designed it, it was, as we've seen on those earlier plans, the only thing different was that, we have to do now that conceptual design is done, we move on to the engineering phase, which requires a new RFP. And just so you guys know that, on some of this stuff, we can look at it, we can narrow it down, but if it's using DOT grant funds, the DOT actually has the final say on who we're gonna work with.
So you send it out for RFP, and if they don't like who we pick, doesn't make any difference.
Yeah,
They
they try to work with you on it, they just want,
want to be involved because,
they wanna make sure that that person has experience with DOT projects, cause it's federal dollars.
yes, because
that
it's
are-
on a federal, I mean, it's state
Yeah.
highway. Okay.
So, I mean, they're just looking out for everyone.
Okay. All right.
And then on Highway
So
42.
before you go to that
Sure.
one, what's the remaining timeline? So we RFP, that takes.
And then it has to be
30
engineered,
days, and engineering is another 60 to 90, maybe.
could take a year. The conceptual plan took 2 years already.
So have we seen the conceptual plan?
Yeah, that came
This is
to us
the
last
one
year.
way back when, that's, okay, but if we are gonna design it to go into the right of way, should we see that too? And approve that, if it's in the right of way?
That's how it was originally drawn, was to go in the right of way.
It was, because I wasn't on Parks at the time. And so, but I do remember discussions, because I know it had to do with the children's center and trees. So, and
That's-
also had to do with the width of the trail, am I right?
So we had always planned a 10-foot wide trail. Talking about the childcare center specifically, we had already
Yeah.
planned a 10-foot wide trail. And we had talked with the child care center about where it would be located and some trees would have to come down.
Mhm.
That had not changed, but somebody did come to the meeting saying it was gonna be a 6-foot trail, child care center didn't approve of it. But that was not, I mean, it was always planned as a 10-foot wide trail.
So
And the child care center, I'm sorry, actually had Skylar go out there and stake it this year. So they know exactly which trees were gonna be in the way.
we're taking trees down there, out there then,
Yes, and we agreed to replant them
same size.
as close as we could, yeah.
Okay, I just, again, I wasn't there, so I don't know. Okay, so, because I remember discussion, because that was a big, because we wanted it to be one of those trees there, you know, for privacy.
Yeah, planning required them to be planted,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, so
Yeah,
I
I
thought we were
think
talking
it's
about
just-
taking it from 10 feet to 6 feet, but
No, it's a 10-foot wide trail. I'm sorry, yeah,
I think initially it was discussed being wider and then it would be a lot more trees and there was, you know, trail.
that's what I
plus some
remember.
easement Stuff.
that's what I
but then it
remember. Uh-huh.
Shrunk down to just the 10
Uh-huh.
and he made some drawings that minimized the tree.
yeah, he moved it a little closer to the right of way to avoid, I mean, the goal is to avoid the trees. And the committee back in 23.
23 was the last time, really, November or December of 23, yeah.
23, I think, is when they actually said, move it as close to the right of way as possible to avoid as many trees as possible. So
Okay, and how far out is it going? Sorry, south,
it goes to Northwoods.
okay.
It goes from, Gateway Park to Northwoods Drive. The committee did talk last year about extending it further south, but that wasn't in our grant and not in our
Yeah,
contracts,
It
but
was talked about as a future
Yeah.
consideration.
Okay,
Isn't this, I'm sorry, Lou.
Oh, no, that's fine. So even without those easements that we did not get, it can still be done then, just,
Yeah.
pushing it to the right of way.
yep, it just complicates a little because now we're dealing with the DOT on permits to go in and do work in their right of way. But it doesn't stop the project.
I think trails are fairly popular in the communities. And this is a nice opportunity to send a message that we have grant funding for this. Again, highlighting
Sure.
that this isn't,
we got
Going to
900, this is what we
impact-
got 900 for, right?
yeah,
we
it does,
did-
it's not gonna
We
impact
did.
property taxes, it's an improvement to the community.
Yeah, we did a big press release when we got the money last year.
Mhm.
Um,
A lot of times past, we could remind people. Maybe a press release
I
when we
think
break
that-
ground.
I think the strategic thing is, once we know when it's gonna be constructed, that's the
Yeah.
time, because otherwise people are
You're
like,
right,
already, they're like, where's the trail? Where's
Yeah,
the
you're
trail?
right. You're right.
So,
You mean like me, where's the trail?
Jerry, I'm with you. I'm so impatient. I'm like, why isn't this done by now? But these are the hoops we have to jump through.
Is this trail on the childcare side of the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
It is, and so the
It's
first
all
one
the way
that,
past the apartments and the new construction. Okay.
Yep, yes.
Okay.
All on that side of the highway.
yeah, because it'll go past Country Lane childcare. Keep going, the next street is, on the right is Cherrywood. And then the next street is,
Maybe
Northwoods.
Northwoods.
Yeah.
going-
So that's,
That clinic is.
the vet clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah, past the Shoals. Okay. Okay. All right, so thank you for the update. I just, because I wasn't, it was me that
If-
requested this item be
If
on
you
here.
guys wanna see those plans again, let me know, or I can just send you the link, but
Can you just send us
Just
the
send us a
link?
link. We don't have
Sure.
to talk
That'd be
about it. It
great.
doesn't have to come
And,
back.
and we're just talking right now about the one along 57. What's the, what other ones?
We're gonna, in the packet, you'll see there's
Okay.
one for Highway
But the
42.
drawings weren't in the packet, were they?
No,
no, because we've seen them
Oh,
before.
okay.
So
Yeah, just send me the link. When you
you
have a
can send the
chance.
group the link, that's
or
fine.
somebody.
yeah,
That'd be great, thanks.
I know sometimes some boards and committees, they don't like having hundreds of pages. and
No,
stuff,
no,
so
I
we
get
try
it.
to
I get it.
not
It
send it over and over unless something has changed, so.
But just for my reference, when we think of the names of these trails, we've got the Highway 57 trail, and that's covered by a grant.
Mhm.
And what are the names of the other trails that are covered by a grant, this grant or another grant?
Look at page 27 in your.
Yeah, I'm
packet.
having trouble with my PC, I'm sorry.
So
That's
the
partly why
next,
I'm
the
asking
next
the
we're gonna
question.
discuss is Highway 42,
Highway
up
42,
the hill, so starting at about, Open Hearth.
Yeah.
okay,
But the grant we got for the $900,000 is just for the Highway 57.
oh, really, okay. Okay,
And at some point, I think you're gonna have to discuss naming these. You don't have to, but naming the trail, oftentimes communities like to name a trail.
No, we should. Well,
Yeah,
people know
I
what-
agree.
That's actually
What it
what I
is.
thought when you started your.
No, I-
about the names.
name would have helped
And I'm
me.
like, yeah, you can
no,
name
that's a
them.
great suggestion.
Yeah, we
You
don't
want
wanna
one
call it
named after
Highway
you, Mike?
57.
No, I don't.
We're not doing that. Okay.
You know, you, down the road too, I think.
Well, if I
we probably-
pay for it, maybe, if people
Yeah,
wanna
yeah,
pay
if
for
you
them,
give us $1 million.
we could, yeah,
we
that's
will
not a
name
bad
the trail.
idea.
Or, you know, you have benches that people can sponsor or exercise stations that like.
Yeah.
People can sponsor along there, so. Okay, and then the Highway 42 one, this one has taken a very long time too. They just finished the conceptual design. They're moving into the, engineering phase of it. So you remember last month it showed, the board, I call it a boardwalk, but basically what that trail looks like, that has to be all engineered. And then, once we have engineered drawings, we're able to apply for bigger grants to try and fund that one. That one, I'm sure will be more than the Highway 57 trail. It's a much shorter trail, but I think it's gonna be more money.
All the elevation change is gonna be complicated.
You're in the right, and that one goes entirely in the right of way of Highway 42. That one, the majority of it is actually in the town of Liberty Grove.
Yeah.
So that one will be a great, I think people are really excited to see us finally be able to connect the communities. I really like this project. This is one where people said it couldn't be done and Stantec figured it out. So I give them a lot of credit, but, so they just finished that. And
So, okay, so this one, I remember in a meeting we had last month. Where Susan was with SBAA, you guys talked about the Highway 42 trail.
Yeah.
What was the drawing that was presented there? Was that the conceptual route design?
so do you remember, in last month's meeting packet in the administrator's report, I showed the location hasn't changed from what we saw originally, but then last month I provided what it would look like how it's elevated in the air. That's basically the part he had to figure out, and now he's engineering all of that to make it work.
It's on the east side of 42? West,
East,
east. Okay. Mhm. Yeah, this is the document you're talking about.
right, yep.
Yeah, so it's up, so if you look at, everybody know what we're talking about? All right, so that's what it is. All
And
right.
that one too, I can send you a link to it. Hopefully it comes through. I don't know your capabilities,
Copy
but
with me here, but-
yeah, because that one I can send a link to too. So that's the, and we first kind of laid out these roads early last year when we talked about going for the TAP grants, and none of that has changed. What has changed is he figured out how to finally get up that hill
Oh.
by doing that drawing like you have right there.
Yeah, I was not sure what that, if that was, so that's the conceptual route design, not the engineering.
We have no engineer drawings on either one of them yet,
Okay.
so that's where we're at, is trying to get the engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And the engineering on that one is paid for, the 42 one is still covered by the Destination Door 20 grant.
So-
The design of it, he says, is by the SIF grant, right? Design was paid for by that?
Right,
Because this is gonna have to be, this has gotta be wood.
I think it's gonna be concrete, probably more like a Trex material or
Correct,
wood.
but wood, okay. To get up that hill, yeah.
And so this is one that we have to partner with, or not have to, but we partner with Liberty Grove on. We just kind of keep them up to date where we're at on it, but they've pretty much left this
See, they're not
up
gonna be,
to us
I don't
at
think
this
they're giving
point.
us any funding, are they? And it's 10 feet wide, is that the
10 feet wide.
specs?
Yeah, that says, yeah, 10 feet wide, multimodal path boardwalk.
So the design work is going into this Highway 42 trail that runs toward Open Heart, back toward the
Starts at Open
village.
Hearth,
and
bottom
comes
of the
to
hill.
village.
up the hill.
Goes to Ephraim.
Towards
Goes Ephraim, because there is a trail there.
You're
about-
connecting Sister Bay with Ephraim, correct, towards town line.
And and the engineering will give us an estimated cost. Is this something do we have a number in the CIP for this?
So this one, the engineering does not give an estimated cost on this. This is different type of engineering. This is where they actually figure it out mechanically how you're gonna make it work, like that drawing that Lily and Louise had. How do you make that structurally sound that it can withstand 1,000 pounds and not fall over or something, you know, it's heavy duty. What I call heavy duty engineering. I mean, it's a tricky
So,
project.
okay, they
The cost of
specify the
that is
material.
covered by the grant.
That's covered by the grant, but so that's covered. When they're done. I mean, if we want this to happen in the next 5 years, wouldn't we have had to put an estimated project cost in the CIP, or did we assume we'd get a grant for this also?
So with this one, the committee approved and the board approved, we had some rough estimates before we had engineer drawings, and we did apply for a TAP grant last year. We applied for the grant for all 3 trails, knowing, let's just hope we get one of them. We knew we wouldn't get all 3, but we did apply for all 3 anyway, and we did get funding for the Highway 57 one. So now, once we have this one engineered, we'll go back and try for a TAP grant again. Or other grants
Okay.
to try and get that one funded.
Okay,
Now, keep in
Because we'll need
mind,
every bit of that, it's gonna be more expensive than
Yeah.
57.
yeah, and keep in mind, whenever you do get those, you still have a match. You know, so, yeah, it's great to get 900 million, but you're still paying 200 and some, and yes, we do have them in the CIP.
okay, perfect.
All right, so next steps on this guy is to come back when, now that we're in the, he's in the, well, someone, yeah, they're in the process of working on the design, okay.
Yeah, this one, so it's the difference between these 2 trails, which might be confusing, is Highway 57 engineering. We have to pay for, that's in the CIP. It involves the DOT because we have a grant. Highway 42 does not, we don't have a grant yet, so we don't have to worry about anybody else. I'm sorry, we don't have a DOT grant yet, so we don't have to worry about the engineering meeting certain test meet standards, but not certain bid requirements that the DOT may require, because we're not there yet. And that one is, the engineer design is covered by a grant. We were
Gotcha.
fortunate.
Okay.
Stantec agreed to do the conceptual plan and the engineering within the grant parameters from Destination Door County. So
Mhm.
what you find is it's usually $100,000 to do phase 1 and phase 2. Contractors that we have good relationships with will use, like McMahon, Stantec, they'll usually say, you know what, we'll do the whole thing for that to help you out. So we just have to be patient because we know that we're not the top priority and it takes 2 years to get a plan on.
Yeah. And actually, the TAP grant is probably the best for us, so which means we're gonna have to meet DOT standards, but we'll kind of, I assume know what that is after we get done with 57, right? If we don't already know, so. Okay.
So then there's the Woodland Trail, which some call the Fire Station Trail. This one, I have to tell you, is my favorite. Because it would go through wetlands, it would go back to a pond, it would lead up to the sports complex. It would be an elevated boardwalk through a wetland. This is the one where I envision someday, you know, having it lit during the holidays where you can walk down this boardwalk trail and there's a lit Santa or reindeer or whatever in the forest, kind of like you do at the Botanical Gardens in Green Bay. This one we haven't really done anything with. We've had it budgeted, this year we had it budgeted for, the first thing you have to do is have a wetland delineation. And they expire, I think, within 3 years or whatever, I can't remember, but I think it's 3 years. So you get the wetland delineation, then you have to get the DNR permits. That alone takes a year, that whole process. And then you can plan, and then you can engineer, and then you can build. So this is a long project, and in my mind, you have to get started on it if you wanna have these. But this was in the CIP, it was budgeted, it was in January, finance decided to not spend the money on that. However, I think we should use our community development fund, to at least, to get started on it, to get that wetland delineation and to get those DNR permits. So we can start engineering, drawing, and working towards that one.
What's that community development fund
So the
slated for otherwise?
So what it was about 2 years ago, staff. I'll be honest with you, staff is a little frustrated because there's never any money to do anything in our park system. And so we talked to the board, and what they approved was whenever there is a multifamily project, we could charge a certain fee per unit for extra units. So let's say it's a 5-unit hotel, you could charge a fee for each room in there. And then that would actually go into a fund, because the thought was, this is more impact on your park system, so collect a little fee, not a little fee, but collect a fee, put it towards your park system, to offset the impact these added people are having. And then that will help you build up a fund for small projects that are not budgeted.
So-
We have about 39,000
Sorry, Jerry.
in 2 years.
My question was gonna be, so your point is, if I'm getting this right, with all of the work that needs to be done, we could have these other 2 trails done. There's no way we can even start this one for 3 years. And in order to start them in 3 years, we have to do something sooner rather than later. Am I getting that right?
Yes, I don't know about 3, it all depends, Mike, how long it would take them to do the conceptual plan and do the engineering.
I
But
thought,
if it takes the same amount of time it is now, yeah, 3 years.
okay, but the DNR process is how long?
That's
Well,
about a
wetland
year.
and the NDNR. right?
Yeah.
I thought those 2 processes, you said you timed out. I wasn't sure how long you said those were,
Yeah, so you have to have a wetland delineation,
which takes roughly,
maybe 4 to 6 months to get done. DNR has to approve it, DNR has to give us permits, that can take about a year.
mhm.
And then, once you know you've been approved, you can design, engineer, and build.
So it's a year and a half to do wetlands and DNR.
I would say it was about a year and a half, it really depends.
Okay.
On the contractor.
Can I ask a question? It starts at the sports complex and it ends where?
So what it does is, kind of at the corner of North Spring and Mill. So if you would start at the sports complex, you cross the street, go along Woodcrest. And some people have, I'll be honest with you, some people in Woodcrest were not excited about the idea of that because at one point we were talking lights on it. None of that's been decided or engineered though. But, what it does is you walk down there and there's a pond. That pond is actually a collection system for us. And then and from that point it turns to wetlands, so it goes to an elevated boardwalk. So you walk down that boardwalk through the woods and you come out kind of at the intersection of Mill and Spring. Kind of across from the current parks maintenance facility.
So it cuts through that woodsy area behind Spring, that's one side of Spring, and then behind the fire station there, and it goes right back toward baseball park.
I kind of think of a trail that comes from
Well,
the
the other way
library.
west.
and
Yeah,
ends up
yeah,
at
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Sports complex.
That's better
going
said,
through the
Jerry.
woods and
But the residents that live there were not too keen on it.
Well,
No, that's,
I thought that what they didn't want was I thought the path that they objected to was the one that went past Woodcrest condos and was on the west side of their building that went directly past it, no?
no, well, so when we were originally working on this trail, there were 2 things that affected Woodcrest condominium people. One is they have a ridge and swale complex, like the last visible ridge and swale complex left in the village. And it's in a conservation area right now. That's on the back part of the Woodcrest condo property. And some people in the condo, had agreed that it'd be nice to actually run the trail along there and put educational signage so people would understand what a ridge and swale complex is, what a heron looks like, what a, you know, certain wetland plants would look like, educational, and then that would ultimately go up to Sunset. And, but then the board, when they voted on that, they said, my understanding was they said no, and we were okay with that because it was like, that was a big project, you know, we're like,
Because
let's
it had a
build
big
it.
loop essentially, so you've got the part that comes through and then a big loop that would go around.
Yeah, so we had said, well, let's just try and build phase one, and later, if they want us, if they want to trail through there, let's work with them on it. I mean, it was their property. But then we had also talked up, but then that trail, you know, connects over to the sports complex. We've always had that path that kind of goes through there, that footpath.
I think
And
that's an old snowmobile.
maybe.
I think you're right.
It-
That's what somebody told me.
Yeah.
It's actually, we actually have deeded easements and
wide.
access on there.
It's big.
Yeah, and so Woodcrest condo crosses our property and does some landscaping to get to their property in that area. They drive on our property and I think they go back and dump leaves, or I can't remember what, but so they use that. So there was some concern they'd be cut off, you know, but then at one point there was discussion, you know, should we have lights along there? And that's when some people in the condo said, we don't want any lights around there. I understand why they would say that, you know.
Mhm.
It was we weren't to that point yet, but I don't think they objected to us having a path on our property that has always been known to be a path. I think it was they objected to maybe cutting them off, which we never said we would. That has to be decided yet. And then really, I think it was about the lights, that they didn't want lights shining in their window. But we never really got that far because we've never been able to do the first step, which is the wetland delineation.
So this is just the question we might be asked. I mean, we've got a lot of trail stuff here. People would like to see trails get done. Are we best off concentrating on the first one on 57 and 42 and getting them done?
But that's
or
why we moved
moving
this out
forward?
with SIP.
Yeah, well, just a
We
little
didn't fund it.
backstory, the 2 years that I've been on this committee and on the board, the Woodland Trail has been cut out of the budget twice already because it has raised a lot of concern. Number one.
Is this the one, is the Woodland one, the one Julie was just
This
describing?
is the
Yeah.
one, yeah. we're
Okay, I'm
just
sorry.
discussing.
Thank you.
There's been concerns raised, number one, because it's wetland, so, you know, just trying to get that delineation and just concerns that it may not be feasible. And then we have had, people from the condos there express their concerns, not just on lighting, but many other things.
Mhm.
And then just the cost of it in general. So that's why it's been cut out of the budget because it just doesn't sound like it's worth all the money and just investment, time and everything for an area that may or may not work good for a trail.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been cut out of the budget twice already, the last 2 years, because there's just too many concerns. But to your point, Mike, yes, I feel like, you know, if we've got these 2 trails here, the 42 and 57, which we've got already a grant for one of them, and these 2 are trails that are going to help, you know, not just, people that want to go out on a walk or hike, it's going to help people get to and from work.
Residents, right?
Right, so these 2 other trails I feel like do need more focus on because they will be more efficient, to put it that way.
And Lily, I'm not missing anything. I mean, people generally are okay with, I mean, I've not heard people say anything about these 2 trails. Is there word, I mean, I think people support them.
No, I think people are
Big support
supportive.
for trails, and I love the idea of trails, but if you compare these 2, the
Yeah.
Highway 57, 42 trail compared to the Woodland Trail, that, there's all these concerns.
Yeah.
Well, let's just focus on the one.
It's probably not as functional.
Really.
I mean, really, this,
That was very helpful.
the
Thank
function
you.
for the other 2 would be definitely to be to move people around and get people, particularly younger families,
Mhm.
in strollers.
Yeah.
at-
get them
along
off the
Highway
road,
57.
and
Yeah.
We see
Or
a lot of
Country
JM
Lane.
students pushing their bike on
Yeah.
the
And
side
good
of
ones,
the
yeah.
roads. 52 and 47 to get to and from work. So yeah, if you look at it in a functional way, we're better off, you know, getting 42 and 57 done. And then we can see if it's even worth, you know, something like this, which would be a more recreational trail. Not saying that it's not a good
Yeah.
idea, but let's get the, you know, the
Yeah, I mean,
functional.
Yeah, we got our plate full with the other two.
Yeah,
So this one's been on the books for, I think about 20 years, it's maybe more than 20 years, this one has been showing up in our planning documents, and then I know with the Taco Wiltie, it was like, well, what we did is, I think about 2 years ago, maybe we cut out the sidewalk we were gonna put on Mill. So we were gonna approve the road and put a sidewalk along Mill, and, due to cost, cut that out. And then that's kind of where this one, the conversation picked up again, because without a sidewalk there, how do you get down Mill? And this was like, well, this is a back way and it's a direct lead to the sports complex, and then,
So
Also
extending
with
the sidewalk you
Wiltie.
do have on there, okay.
yeah, because we're not gonna go, that
Do we go all
sidewalk
the
no
way to-
longer will go to
Yeah, yeah.
Woodcrest.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
not right now a
Doesn't go all the way.
convenient pedestrian path from downtown to the sports complex or
There's
back
none,
and forth.
right?
Kind of get stopped at some point. Okay. All right, so you're gonna send us the link, which is great, to the, you know, to the present maps for 57 and 42.
Now, do you want to address this at your future meeting to decide whether you want to use those community development funds?
Not right now,
Or-
no. I think we wait on that, because that would be for community development funds, it would be ones that we would, that I think that we'd use for the Woodland Trail, but I don't think right now we wanna.
Okay,
We can put it on future meeting, future, but not right now.
The finance, yeah, so the finance committee is the one who would release those funds,
Sure,
but it'd be a recommendation from the Parks Committee.
Yeah.
So if,
When we
Yeah,
move
I
into
mean-
budget time, maybe in July.
okay.
which means that if it was approved in July, you'd have that work done then in 26.
Mhm,
Because you have to schedule those quite a bit in advance.
mhm. Okay, next up. Is the broadband update. I requested this, you guys, because I've had a couple of people, myself included, wondering where we are with broadband. And I did bring the contract, just so I'm not sure any of us, I wasn't. this was
Excuse
signed-
me, Cassie and Rachel, are you here from?
I was,
Okay,
this
I'll
was on
unmute
October
you.
23, this is.
If you could unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, hi, I'm Cassie, and then Rachel is also with me from Bertram Communications to help you guys with answers any questions.
Yeah, so, Louise had asked for an update, so, Cassie and the rest of the team at Bertram to give us the update. So as you know, we did not have a lot of people sign up by the deadline, so it was extended to the end of the year, December. It took them, you know, a couple weeks to compile all that, but we're now up to, as number 3 says on here, 367 residents have signed up for the drops. Not all have signed up for the service, but they at least know how many drops they have. So based on that, they were able to complete the route, so I have the maps here if anybody wants to see where the drops are, what side of the road the lines go on, etc. We do have those, so we have those engineered
Does it-
drawings.
Does it list who's signed up somewhere, or
Um,
probably need to do like Mike did and Paul to make sure?
I signed up, the whole deal.
I signed up as
Well,
well.
2
You signed your
years.
contract and everything.
However, today Spectrum just sent me, and we all got it in our mailbox, a discount where you get internet service for $30 a month for 2 years. But there's stipulations there too.
Always.
So
So wait, the maps that you have are, tell me this again.
yeah, so now that we know who has signed up,
Ah,
they were able to complete the maps.
got it.
Which show, you know, where they're gonna be doing the drops, where they're
Can
connecting.
you define a drop?
Yeah, Julie, I have
Explain
a
what
question
that
on that too, because they just put a drop on my property in Bailey's. And it's like a 5-foot white pole with a red cap. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I hope to God we aren't gonna have those
Well, we
all
have
the way
them-
down
we
North
have
Bay
them
Shore.
on Zoom, so we can ask that question. They're on the screen. But
Cassie, you wanna answer that question?
Yeah, so a drop, so drop is a little bit different than what's in the right of way. So Mike, what you're talking about, that should be in the right of way out like near the road, correct? That you're talking about
Oh,
that.
yeah, but it's on my,
Should be
it's
white,
in the one in
though. It should
Mason
be
Park,
orange.
they're everywhere. You drive down the road and you see them everywhere.
Okay. So those poles are markers for what's in the ground for those PEDs. It shouldn't be white. Ours are orange with black caps. So they're not white. Unless for some reason I've seen they're doing it different ones, but not that I'm aware of. But basically those poles that we put in the ground are marking where our PEDs are. So those are those boxes that go flush into the ground that hold like, and basically so we can look at the conduit if we ever need access to it. So those PEDs are marked. I forget how big the distance is. It kind of depends on the roadway. They're not along like a lot of your town roads. It's more like the big county roads where big tractors or trucks are going to be on so that they don't run over those. So that's what those poles are in the ground for.
Or streets here. Did
I'm sorry,
anybody look
Cassie,
at this?
we're just talking amongst ourselves
Sorry.
for the moment.
Okay,
Sorry.
no worries. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting anybody off.
No,
But to
there's
define a drop,
delay.
so I know that was the other question. So to define a drop, what that is the conduit that goes from the right of way and then brings that up to the customer's home. So the drop is that conduit with the fiber, and then there's that box that goes and mounted on the outside of the home. So that's what's we consider a drop.
Yes, you have 367 of those that have signed up or scheduled, right?
367 residents have signed up, and then I have 460 condos on top of that have also signed up. So sometimes I will say there's a little bit of a mixture because some of the condos will go in and sign up for actual service. So that's like in our residential list as well, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a mix. It could be a little less of a total because if you total that up, it's obviously what, 827. But again, it's not as many because some of those condo associations also go onto our link and sign up for actual service. The condo associations are typically only in charge of signing up for the drops to the condo units. So those 460 condo units that are signed up are just drops only. And then the 367 that we have for residential is a mixture of drops and signups for service, if that makes sense. Hopefully I explained that.
Yes, can you explain? Mike had a good question there is, so once the fiber is through the conduit and in the box, in the right way, then do those poles get removed?
They do not. Again, they're markers so that because those PEDs can't get run over by big trucks because they will get damaged. They can get like run over, like, so they're flush with the ground. If you run over it with your lawnmower or something, that's not a big deal. But like big tractors and things like that, like they can't get run over because they will get damaged.
Look, again, I have
So
a
they're
property
flush
in
with the
Bailey's
ground?
Harbor. Yeah, and they run the orange conduit, they run the orange conduit with their drill. Or they dig up the ground. Then they run their fiber optic through the cable. And at connection points, which near my property, there's probably about 8 of them. And they are, how tall are they? 5 feet off the ground, 4 feet? And they are
Not
bright colored.
how big those PEDs are, or how big those poles are.
I'll send you all
Well,
pictures. I'll send you all pictures tonight. But
Yeah,
I
what is
guarantee you, if we pop those babies up all through Sister Bay, it is not gonna be pretty.
Well, what's it look like? I don't understand what it
It's
looks
a
like.
post.
I thought you said it's flush to the ground.
No, it's a post this high. It's one, I thought she could be right, she's the expert. It's a post to my chest. The cap is red and has a number on it. And then the bottom part is a different color. They are bright.
Are they in downtown Bailey's too?
I
Cause I work in
think they're,
downtown.
I don't know where they're putting them. I know where I am on Birch and Sunset, they're everywhere.
All right, so
I
Cassie, we
can tell
need
you that
some,
they're not going to be like in your downtown area. We don't put them there because
They are in the, like,
they're
if
not going to be
I-
where sidewalks and things like that are.
I'm on the map I'm on page, whatever, 12. There's my address, I'm there. So am I gonna have, I'm gonna have something 5 foot tall with a red cap in my front yard? Is that what we're saying?
I apologize. I don't know exactly where the engineering team puts all of those and where they have to. I know like they're required to put them in
Oh.
some areas just because of different highways and things like that. They're not
What
required to
I
put
saw them, what I saw them do is wherever the conduit had a connection, they put them in.
So every
They
flower
don't do
pot,
them on every connection.
Okay, but where I saw them working, typically at the intersections and at the end of every driveway. That's,
They
I'll
will
say,
put one flush with the ground, yes, but they won't
So
put
they-
the orange.
Let me just change gears here a second. Yes, when they came in, bid on the project, presented to us, we did know there was gonna be the flower pots is what we call them. We knew there was gonna be the safety poles. We knew there was gonna be stuff in certain areas throughout the village. We were aware of that.
That's unavoidable.
And that we agreed to sign that contract knowing, because for us, it was worth it to get the fiber. So
Okay.
we understood that, yes, we want everything buried, but there's certain things that you still will see. So, and it was worth it to us to have it underground instead of overhead as well.
Whoa, get rid of our. So I have a question. Cassie, you said for sure it wouldn't be in the downtown area. Why? Why would you have it not have it there?
Downtown area will have, I mean, your downtown area has sidewalks and things like that. We're not gonna put orange markers by your sidewalks. It's really to make sure, like I said, it's really to make sure that trucks and things like don't drive over them. So obviously they're not gonna drive over your sidewalks. At least I hope not. So they're not gonna put orange markers where they don't need them, where big trucks and things like that aren't gonna drive over them.
But they're not gonna be there's 6 houses on my street, I think. So they're not gonna be in front of every single house, just a few? Sorry. I know I
So
should
the
understand
PEDs
what I'm saying.
themselves are, like I said, those are flush with the ground. Those, they typically can feed a few houses based, it depends on the distance. And I apologize, I don't know what that distance is based on how far apart the houses are. But they can put one in and it can feed, like drops can go to several different homes if they're close enough. They can feed several different homes to that one PED that's in that ground.
That's the pad.
Yep.
what's the difference between a ped, a flower pot, and a handhold?
Good.
They're all just
question.
different sizes. So a handhole is usually what we put at like the end of roads and like your junctions, like between like a split off between like if you were to go, like if you're on a road and then all of a sudden you need to split off into a different road, that's where you'll see a handhole. It's just a little bit bigger of a box because it has a lot more fiber coming to it because of the fact that you're doing different roads and things like that are coming to it. A
Well,
flower pot and a
flower
pet is
pot
like the same thing. It's
and-
just a smaller size that gets fed to the homes.
They both be marked to avoid driving over. So that, on this map, the flower pots and the handholds are what would be potentially marked with sticks or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Not other places.
So
No.
Mike, I have one too. What you have is maybe it's about this big.
no, it's just a post
So I have like the rectangle box.
or the comms box.
Yeah, and it's about maybe that big. It's buried flush. They actually put a little dirt over it. And then right next to it is the post that Mike talks about. Mine is actually cream with a little orange and black on it.
Yeah, that could be the color they are, it could be wrong, but
Yeah, but it's so somebody doesn't back up and run it over and.
so there's nothing under there. If a homeowner didn't like it, they could just pull it out and they're all done with it, because I mean, right?
I'm gonna
it
tell
doesn't-
you that if they pull that out, we will know about it. We will replace it. It is also in the right of way. We don't put it in people's yards. It is our property. Like we can't. have people moving out of our space.
I understand, but we're the Parks Department. We're supposed to be here to
But it's in the
beautify the
right-of-way.
village. Yeah, but
Well, if
Louise,
it's
I'm
in-
telling you, if these
I'm not
things are all.
suggesting that these are beautiful, but if it's in the right of way, I'm not sure that we.
Correct, and we agreed to this project. Year and a
Okay.
half ago, so.
Okay,
So Mike, I understand, it's not the best looking,
I am just telling you, once people start seeing these things pop up, you know,
What's interesting is I'm looking at my street and we have one flower pot on my street. Now, we only have 3 people that signed up, according to this. Now, there could be other people that will later. We have 3 people that signed up,
Does this give the ones that signed up, or is it just every address? I think it's just every address.
not for
isn't
me,
it?
No, I
not
think,
for us.
Cassie, that map is, if my understanding was that was just the ones that signed up so far, right?
I believe so, and I apologize, I haven't had time to look the whole map over, but I believe it's just the ones that have signed up. It's not to say, so that, I mean, that is, I know that's something Sarah brought up, is that it's not to say that we might not get other people that sign up as we go along the project.
Yeah.
Which is, what we were trying to avoid. We wanted as many signups as we could beforehand so that it didn't cause like a delay in the time frame. Just
Yeah.
because it does happen. We've had it in a lot of other projects where people will see us and then, then they'll ask, but then we have to go back to them because they didn't sign up right away when we were there. So it kind of does cause that delay when we have those people sign up later on.
My understanding is this reflects those that we know for sure are getting it, so we know what infrastructure we need in front of them. And then areas where we're anticipating something would happen, because, was my
Yeah,
understanding.
we still do engineer so that if, even if for future builds, future lots, vacant lots even, we're still gonna make it so that we can always access the fiber and always get fiber to new homes even too. So that it's not just gonna be where we're putting in the fiber where all the signups are, because we're obviously in our contract is that we are gonna get it to every resident and do it along the roadways for everybody. So it's still gonna be there. It's not gonna be where they don't have anything there if somebody decides to sign up later down the road.
Okay,
I mean, there are other communities that have fiber optic around the state, and I've not seen these posts all throughout subdivisions and residential streets the way I'm seeing them in Bailey's. I mean, if there's another alternative, it might be worth investigating for these
I can bring
markers.
that up. I don't know if there is an alternative. I can bring it up and ask.
so aesthetically,
I just think people are not gonna be happy.
what are they saying in Bailey's?
I will admit, they just went up a couple weeks ago. I haven't
Okay.
talked to anyone in Bailey's yet. It's a fair point.
All right, so Cassie, the question to you would be, of course, if you're getting any feedback there, but nonetheless. Okay,
I personally have not heard anything about the posts.
Okay.
I've maybe gotten one person I think that I can remember that asked about it, but personally I have not gotten those questions.
so it looks like we have about, so close to about half of our residents that have signed up. And as you well know, we have Spectrum, so I'm not sure what you guys were expecting. It sounds like you would
Three
have,
hundred sixty-seven residents plus the 400 whatever condos, that seems. Like we're pretty close to 1,000.
yeah, I'm just making an observation, that's all, because I didn't know it was 460 condos, so. That's a good thing too.
Yeah, so what does this is lower than expected mean, the number of sign up?
What's
Right,
your
what was the
total?
projection?
I apologize. What's your total for your residents?
1,500, no, sorry, 1,200.
1,200.
Okay. I mean, it's still kind of low just because of the fact that the drop is at no cost to them. So that was really what we were asking residents to do, is just sign up for the drop. You don't have to sign up for service. You don't have to take our internet. It was just we were just trying to get people to sign up for drops because of the fact that this was included in the project so that they don't have to pay for it down the road if they ever wanted to go with Bertram as a different option as opposed to Spectrum. Like I said, they don't have to. It's not a requirement by any means. It's just that we wanted to try and get as many people signed up for the drop because it's included in the project cost.
Well, we have 1,200 people, of the 400 that didn't, I bet you 200 are confused. It's just what happens, take 10% of your population on anything, and it's confusing for them, and not being critical. It just, I don't know, I'm not sure. And they could also be seasonal, by the way. They could be taxpayer, but they're seasonal.
Yeah,
and
and Julie helped us send out a letter to the tax addresses, so we were trying to reach as many people as
Well,
possible by sending it to their actual homes as opposed to
Yeah.
their Sister Bay residents. So
Okay.
thank you, Julie. I do appreciate all your help with that.
What's the next step? Now that you've mapped this out, my question is, because when we signed the contract with you guys, you thought it would be about 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And you're not, that's not gonna happen. So that would mean that you'd be done by April.
So
Um,
next, yep, and next
what's the
steps
next-
would definitely be that right now we're getting the permitting process done, that all the paperwork is ready to go. And usually that's done pretty shortly. The county and the DOT have been actually really fast at getting back to us. So that's pretty much done. The biggest holdup right now is that even though we're having a mild winter, the freeze level basically is really holding us up, because if we started digging and they started doing the work, it would cause a lot of disruption, and the landscaping to repair it all would be really costly. And obviously we don't want to add to the project in cost by any means. So that's really where the holdup is right now. But basically we're still moving forward with the permits and things like that. And we'll still obviously get to going once we get all of those, things in line.
So if it's pretty much done and frost aside, then you'd really start working in earnest by April, May. Right?
Yeah, I would assume. Yep.
And so that's. So
We get
now you're
another
not-
snowfall or something in April, I
holding
guess.
you- I'm not holding you to anything. I'm just, when people say, where is it and when is it gonna happen? So let's say it's May or June, is that another year before it's completed?
I just want to interject real here. Per our contract, it has to be done by mid-April, or we have to talk, because that's when lawyers get involved, right? The contract, we. didn't
Yeah,
have the
I mean, it's,
contract.
according to the
So-
contract, you're supposed to be done by April of 25.
Yeah, so let's just see where we get, like I said, we finally know the drops, we're
Alright,
waiting on that
alright.
frost. And then I do know it goes pretty fast. I know where I live, it went very fast when they came through those cables. However, we do have a lot of rock.
Yep.
But and it's not a big area, so I do think it'll go pretty fast once they get started. Cassie, is there any estimate on like how long, once you get started, it takes to actually get all that cable in? And those boxes in?
I would have to ask Five Star that question, and I can bring that to, I know you met Justin, I can bring that to him and ask him. I apologize, I don't know what their projected timeline of like from start to finish is. I wouldn't think that it's, I mean, I know you know this, Julie, they obviously did clay banks really fast. So I don't see it being like a yearly project by any means. I get it, that's a little different with the rock, but I can definitely bring that to Justin and ask that question though.
I asked this question when I signed up for service, and I did make a 2-year commitment, but I'm wondering if I cancel, can I avoid getting that posted in front of my house? But you're talking about the timeline for putting in the infrastructure along the streets. You're not talking about, or are you also talking about the timeline to drill from the street to the side of your house and put the service in?
It's all supposed to be
It would
complete.
probably be more of the infrastructure. Honestly, the drops to the homes can take a little bit longer just because of the fact that you're talking about having to schedule with people that are not always in town, and things like that. So getting services scheduled it does take a little bit lengthier of a process because we're, obviously dealing with more customers and having to get in contact with them. Especially when they're
my
seasonal.
second question, which becomes very important, and I believe you drill from the street to the house, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we'll use
And
like,
that-
they've done that or they've done a plow, like a small plow, but it depends on the soil and stuff, but usually they'll drill.
And this was an important issue to a lot of residents because people have perennial gardens and they want to be there and they want to make sure that they agree to the route between the street and their house for the wire or the
Mhm.
fiber. And the difference, again, as I understand it, is the fiber requires installation inside a conduit where cable, it's much simpler. They can put it in from up ground with a wedge tool, and it only is a few inches under the ground. You go down further and you use a drill, correct? Screw drill.
So yeah, so basically what they'll do from the right of way, it's only about, so in the right of way, it's usually about 24 inches down. Sometimes they'll go less depending on the area, but then when they do go up to the home, they only go about 12 inches down. So about a foot. Sometimes it dips a little lower because obviously they can't kink the cable. But yes, they will go around, like to avoid landscapes and things like that, they'll either drill under them or they'll go like around them to avoid it because they have to put everything they disturb back. So they don't want to wreck people's landscapes because then they have to put them back. So they're not going to disrupt people's landscapes.
Thank you.
Did the village extend that deadline for customers to sign up then?
It was actually extended 6 months, yeah, because the deadline, actually, the first deadline I think was July, and then we extended it to December 31st.
You haven't extended it again.
No, because the project has to be done in mid-April. So they had, at some point, we had to say, okay, this is what we've got, because they had to engineer it.
Yeah.
Based off those that signed up, so.
I mean, I am wondering, based on how long it took them in Bailey's Harbor, is that even feasible that they can be done by then? I mean, they have to answer. That's something they should check. These people
Well,
don't
that's what we
know.
were just talking
Yeah.
about, because that's when we have to, that's a contractual thing. Okay. Any more comments? All right, Cassie, we appreciate you being on. Thank you very much. Any
Okay.
questions,
Guys have a
Cassie,
great-
on our end?
Okay. And I'll bring those
Questions?
questions back for sure. So if you guys have any more, obviously Julie has my email. You guys can always ask.
Thanks, Cassie.
All right, thanks
Thank
for zooming in. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It could just be my taste, but I'll send everybody a picture so you guys can see what they look like and make your own mind up.
Give us your address. We'll just drive by.
No, not at 57, like on the streets where the houses are, on Sunset and Birch and,
Okay.
yeah.
I have one right in my front. I have one.
There's one in front of every house. They look goofy. Honest to God, Julie, I'm telling you, I think you're gonna hear a lot. If these things start getting popped up all over Sister Bay, people will not be happy. There's gotta be another way they can do it. That might even save them some money, because I don't know.
I know, Mike, but now we have a contract.
Yeah, I hear you, but I know we have a contract, but you're gonna hear about that.
I think we will.
Okay, on to public space audits.
This was delayed from an earlier meeting, so as you recall, Door County, out there using their ARP has a template that they use, they get trained on it, they go into areas and they look at how friendly it is for all ages, not just older people. I know it's sponsored by ARP, but it's all ages, so they look at each of them, and this is one that we said earlier, let's look at it in more depth and then keep it in mind too, I think, when we're doing budget. Some of it we thought, oh, that's not really true. We didn't agree with it the first time we looked at it.
Didn't we
So,
have this last month?
We
Yeah,
did. I thought we were
we
just gonna
referred
take
it
it under
again.
advisement for future.
Yeah,
I think
yeah, I
so.
thought that was the discussion last month, because we would
Yeah.
use the information in the future.
I'm not sure we could take any action on it now.
I think we just wanted it just keep it for reference.
Yeah.
public space audits, it was the consensus that an in-depth review of the previous mentioned audits should be conducted at the next meeting of the committee so that the stated suggestions can be prioritized, is what your minutes say.
I don't, well, at this point,
Denise wanted to,
I think Denise did, yeah.
right.
She said she wanted to prioritize them.
prioritizing is a good thing. I think it's not a good idea to do it without Denise here. Certainly we'd want her input. I'm not trying to just move it off again, but then I would move that this be moved to the March meeting. Unless it's a bad idea.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Louise? maybe committee members can prioritize it on their own and
Themselves and
send
send
that
it to
to
you,
me,
sure.
so that we can
Yeah.
kind of get it compiled rather than
Okay,
hash that out during. a
so,
meeting.
yeah, so based on when the next meeting is, you're gonna need that by. Let's look at the calendar, okay? Okay, so, the next meeting will be March 3rd, so if we can get those in 2 weeks, by February 17th.
Even, I think even the week after, I'd still be okay compiling it, Louise, like the week of planning commission, which is your fourth Tuesday.
Okay.
Maybe we shoot for that, that would still give me enough time.
Okay, so send recommend. Chances are, maybe hopefully we all recommend the same thing, like top 5, top 4, there's a lot in here.
Is the thinking, I've read through this, that pretty completely, is the thinking that we just look at their feedback and kind of collect it so that we consider it as we do existing
Yes,
improvements and
Yes.
enhances? I mean, that I think
Yes.
it's very useful for, but I'm not sure it was useful to go out and build a checklist and start doing every one.
100%, that's what we discussed.
Okay,
So this would be input from, in this case, AARP, this is the template that's used. And, you know, my comment was that I thought that it was, in some cases, I wasn't quite sure, you know, how, you know, I differed in opinion. I thought that their comments about the sports complex were really straightforward and right on, because
Yeah,
sports complex is pretty simple, pretty easy. What you see is what you get.
yeah, and I mean, one of
And
the
waterfront
recommendations,
property is different.
and one of the recommendations was restrooms on your concession stand building, so I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
some of it we're tackling already.
Mhm.
So, and some of it, I think the first go around, we were like, we don't need that, you know, that's, yeah, I understand why some outsider may want that, but we didn't feel it was appropriate, so. So if you guys compile those, get them to me, then I'll, or fill it out, get it to me and I'll compile.
So that's by February 21st.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next up will be Village Volunteer Day. We discussed this at the last meeting, and there's a quick update on Earth Day, right?
Yeah, so it was, you know, the talk was a volunteer day, then there's comment about maybe, there could be something, put it together with Earth Day somehow. So then I did want to give an update on where the green tier was at on Earth Day, so you could see what they did have, what they talked about in there as well. So. So it's up to you guys, what you want to do with it.
Well, I think what we talked about at the last meeting was to really focus on 3 or 4 different,
And if I, sorry for interrupting,
Sure.
but on the last village board meeting, we had suggested to have a joint meeting between Parks and Green Tier.
Yeah.
So I think we should do that,
because what we wanted to do was design Volunteer Day or have it around
Earth Day,
Earth Day.
which, yeah. Yeah, because, yeah, we did, so I'm on Green Tier as well, and like
And
it says
that's-
on here, we've been, on our last meeting, we discussed ways we could, or things we could do that don't require necessarily like a lot of time and money, where we could still, you know, inform or educate our community on ways we can help the environment. You know, how, about recycling, about pollutant, you know, like designate a day to not use your vehicle, you know, small things like that. And we thought that that might be something we can tie in with volunteer day as well. Like, I don't know, maybe giving out trees, for example.
So do you want to try and schedule something with Green Tier between the 2 committees
I
between
mean,
now and?
that would be
You
ideal.
probably need to do it.
Maybe
pretty
between the
quick.
2 committees, we can designate a volunteer day
Mhm.
as opposed to going back and forth.
Yeah, so that will be,
Yeah.
it'll be way past Earth Day by the time we figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, we know when the next Parks meeting is, so we should, and when's the next Earth Day meeting? Or sorry, Green Tier meeting?
Green tier kind of meets as we get.
So could that be our next meeting? Can we join?
Yeah, so
Have them join?
yes, we have
With
to
Parks
see
in March?
when, we have to see when the Green Tier Committee is available. To
Okay.
see when they can do a joint one.
Okay.
I know they, like Lily said, and as the staff report says, there's a list of stuff they're working on for Earth Day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how far they are. They kind of get assignments and then we regroup
Yeah,
month to see where we're at on.
Paula was gonna, reach out to people, get some information together, and, we did approve on the Green Tier Committee to use, part of our budget to purchase the 3,000 reusable shopping bags that we want to give out to our local residents, for free. I think Paula was going to reach out to a couple of local artists and see if they would be willing to, which I think we just got an update on that, so it'd be good to schedule a meeting with Green Tier soon. But,
Design something for the
to
band.
design something for the bag,
Nice.
hopefully they would do it at no cost, just like a, volunteer type of thing.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure she talked to them already, and she should have some updates on that, and then we can. I think we had a company already that they were looking into to get the bags ordered. And, I don't think we'll have them ready by Earth Day, but when we do, then it would be up to Green Tier Committee to set up a time to. She was also gonna talk to Jay Keto, see if we could use the lobby at the Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah,
It would
Because they
just be
sell bags as
easier.
well, yeah. Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, like Julie said, there's a little assignment throughout the committee that we need to hear back from. The dates up for these things.
Lily, are you also on the green tier?
Mhm.
Are there any larger organizations we work with who could help us with like seedlings or,
Yeah,
if
that
we
would
wanted to
be
do,
I mean,
The
the
big
only one I can
people.
think of right now and that we have
Jeff
worked that-
Letsey, right?
with Jeff Letsey from Climate Change Coalition of Door County.
Mhm.
Last year they gave us trees, and then we gave them out, free to the community. We're planning on doing that again this year.
Okay,
I do know, and I've been to some of these with the Climate Change Coalition, where they pick locations, people can volunteer to have trees planted on their property. And then, it just, they'll announce or whatever, make an event, and you can just join with your family. and plant
my
trees.
conscience wouldn't let me have somebody else do it. I'd have to do it myself. But
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
But yeah, they do things like that, and
Yeah.
they're always open to working with communities or other committees.
Didn't they do one at the Shoals?
There was
Last
one.
season?
Yeah.
We did talk
I
about,
think so, yeah, I went to one at Woodblock, down in Egg Harbor, and that was nice with Jocelyn. And, yeah, but they're always open to, open to working with community.
Sometimes larger organizations will help with that because it allows them to promote themselves while they're
You
helping
know,
us.
which one I hadn't thought of, and I just got a newsletter from them, was Door County Seed Library. For
Oh.
example, they give away free seeds, and they mail seeds to your address if you subscribe to their newsletter
Mhm.
for free most of the time.
Okay,
So that's when, I just thought of them, because they got a newsletter from them, but I can mention it on Green Tier too. We can reach out to Door County Seed Library
okay,
and see what kind of things they've got on their agenda that maybe
okay,
we can work with.
all right.
I think the volunteer day is really a cool idea. I think,
Mhm.
it'll probably take a little while to build it up, but
Yeah.
and focusing it around environmental is
Mhm.
really a fun thing to do too.
so one thing we talked about was planting trees out on Loggerfest. And finance approved using municipal reimbursement funds to buy trees to plant out there. So you could have people gather out there and plant Loggerfest for volunteer day.
I know NWTC is always looking for ideas on like workshops and things they can offer to the community too. I don't know, maybe some environmental type of thing, workshop or whatever would be, we can talk to Tammy there.
Mhm.
And they'd be willing to work with the committees to put things together.
Could get them to do a little seminar right in that nice facility and then have,
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
approached me a
yeah.
few times and she's always told me if there's anything you can come up with that you think would be, a good seminar or something for the community, please approach us and we'll look into
we
it.
could hand,
So they're always open to ideas, yeah.
we could hand out assignments and go do road site cleanup after.
It's been done in the past.
Yeah, I mean,
think,
we used to,
yeah.
well, the coordinators and Destination Door County will recruit people to do, we did it along 57, I think they still do it.
Yeah, 'cause that's the stretch of highway that DDC is.
Yeah,
like,
that they're
adopted.
responsible
Yeah.
for,
Mhm.
right. And that's never, I mean, it's whether it's a stretch of highway or whether it's, especially at Waterfront Park, which is so intensely used.
Mhm.
I mean, the parks guys, I don't care how often they go
Yeah.
through there, you never have to, you would be hard pressed to walk through there in a summer, on a summer weekend with a plastic bag and not have something to pick up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, helping them out with that would be fine, but anyway, yeah, a cleanup thing is always great. The beach is usually always in good shape, but around, you know, like behind Wild Tomato and that whole area is just, there's kids. Kids leave stuff, you know? All right, so the action on that will be to get, Green Tier together with Parks,
Mhm.
right? And come up with a program for
Volunteer day.
volunteers, and then we have to recruit people to volunteer to do it.
Mhm.
Okay. Right. Okay, next up is the bench, oh, hold on, make sure I'm in the right one.
Yeah.
Next up is the employee recognition benches.
Sure, I'm not sure if Eric is on the call yet, but Eric had I
He
thought a
is on
great
here.
idea. So there's some benches that he has that have not been used for the donation program. And he said, why don't we, honor employees that serve 20 years with the village or more, which is, 5 or 6 benches. So, I said, I think it's a great idea, Eric, but we do have to ask the committee for their approval. So.
I think it's a good idea too. It's a matter of, you know, where do we put them and who chooses those locations, but.
Eric, you had an idea on where the benches would go. Can you comment on that?
So these benches are currently moved between the fire pit at the sports complex and the pickleball and tennis courts. They have the Sister Bay wording on them. And right now we're in the middle of restorating a couple of them, and we just had an idea of maybe putting 20+ years of service to the village of Sister Bay. If you had 20+ years, I think we have quite a few. I thought it would just be a nice little recognition, since we do have the capability to just putting a name on there and in honor of.
That would be nice.
20.
Do we have any of those in the soccer, at the
I
soccer
was
field?
gonna say, it would be nice, we don't have any like seating besides like one picnic table.
I mean,
at
people
the
bring them,
soccer
but
field.
could we
but-
put a couple in there and have
That'd be
what,
nice.
some of the longtime Parks guys' names on them?
So right now we have 2 benches currently on the soccer field with a couple of picnic tables. These benches that we're redoing right now are the go-betweens between the pickleball and fire pit out at the sports complex by the ice rink.
Okay.
They're already made. We're just kind of touching them up a bit, making them look good again. And we had them in the shop, so I figured it was a nice idea. I wasn't planning on putting any kind of permanent thing. They can just still be the go-betweens. You know, they can just still be out at the sports complex, go between the pickleball and the fire ring.
It might be nice if we did it for all village employees over a certain milestone, not just the parks department.
That's
No,
what I
it-
was thinking. Is any employee over 20 years? So that
And
would
then
be
the other
utility,
thing,
administration, and parks.
when they retire, you let them take them home.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, that's what a lot of places do with those kind of
Ours
memorials.
all have retired except for one. But yeah, you've got Ron Kane, you know, who is zoning and village
Yeah.
administrator. You have 2 in Parks, you have Janelle, you had, Steve, you had,
Jim.
I think
wastewater treatment.
it's a neat
and then
idea. It
one
would even be
finance.
neater if we could say what they did so people know, or if they.
So Mike, are we gonna look at a list and decide who gets the first 2 benches, or what do we do?
Eric has enough that he was gonna do all of them at once.
Oh, you do have enough. I'm sorry, I
It would be
misunderstood.
the rotating benches that go around the fire pit,
Uh-huh.
between there and the pickleball court. Those benches
What's the
that already
rotate?
exist
Who's
would
the
be.
guy? Who rotates them?
People.
Eric
that are
or
there.
anybody?
does.
Okay,
We
like a
move them into the pickleball tennis court area in the summer, then we move them back to the fire pit in the winter.
Okay.
So we don't have any extras though to put at the soccer field, right? Not yet.
Well, we could move, I mean, we do leave 3 at the fire pit over the summer. We could technically move those out to the soccer field. We just leave them at the fire pit.
But Eric,
Well-
you said there's 2 at the soccer field, right?
Picnic table.
There's 2 permanent ones that are memorial benches.
Yes, the
Picnic
ones
table.
over on, yeah. And then if.
Okay, it's just the soccer field's so local and they'll know whoever,
Yeah,
whoever
it's
name is
being-
on there,
it's
they'll
being used
know.
more and more every summer too now by like adults. There's like a big guys
For soccer,
group
yeah, for
that
soccer.
have been
Mhm.
getting together at the fields in the summer.
Okay,
now.
that's a great idea.
I think that was
There-
very nice, Eric. Thank you.
So
Thanks, Sarah.
I
You're welcome.
that the use of these benches to honor village employees.
With 20 years.
Yeah,
service.
20 years or more of service.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
And-
Aye.
Okay, looks like Eric's up again. Staffing discussion?
So Eric right now, it's Eric and the ES4 crew, and they've been pretty busy since Eric's been here. I would have to say Eric inherited some stuff that had been neglected for a long time. They've done a lot of work in the last couple of years. They're caught up right now. So he is down to 3 employees and he said, you know, now that we're caught up, I think I can get by with 3. Would the committee support having 3 employees versus 4? And because that means these 3 will have more hours, because now you'll rotate once every 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks. Would they consider actually giving them a little bump in pay as well? So it would be reduce the number of employees, reward the ones that are staying there. And anything we would recommend would have to go to personnel and then finance.
Okay, so these are full-time, but they get additional part-time seasonal hours, right?
Yeah, so what you have is you have full-time employees. And then in summer they work extra events.
Yep.
And then they also rotate. Right now it's once every 4 weeks, they
Yep.
have to rotate.
Mhm.
They come in on the weekends, they empty the garbage, they clean all the toilets. By not replacing this individual, they would have to come in once every 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then, of course, the only thing that I think would be a little hard for them is Fall Fest, because right now with Fall Fest, it is all hands on deck. So they would be 1 down for Fall Fest, but, you know, they just do what they can do, really, I mean.
Well, I mean, I don't know, Eric, do you feel okay with being able to cover Fall Fest?
You know, I've had this discussion and my main concern is between January and to March and trying to, you know, because what Julie had said prior is like there was a bounty full of things to be done and everything like that. And I'm seeing a future where if I add another staff member to the team, it's going to be more hard pressing to keep the momentum going the way I like it to keep going. I had this discussion with staff after I had expressed this concern with them and everything, and the 3 of them were okay with moving forward with the way we currently have it right now. Yes, obviously, work is bountiful in the rest of the seasons and everything like that, and I don't want to not have a guy. You know, I almost want to like make just kind of see moving forward, not close the book on, you know, possibly having one, but I'd like to see moving forward with current staff right now, what we have and how this goes moving forward. If we're good and we're good to go, we get through the festival seasons. There's no big amount of stress. They're not getting burnt out in the summertime with the rotation. Because there's a big difference from, hey, you know, that extra overtime day looks pretty sweet, but then once the rubber hits the road and you're in that grind, you know, and then I'm seeing some burnout and the quality of the product is going down. I don't want to fully close the door on, hey, and come back to the committee and be like, sorry guys, I tried, they really need it. I'll figure something out between January and March to possibly, make the production stay where it needs to stay. It's just a concern that I had moving forward, basically. So I had a conversation with staff. They kind of were like, hey, we're okay with this. And they had asked to bring up, hey, if we're going to be down another guy, would the committee would consider maybe giving them an extra bump in pay since we're not going to have that guy there now. But then, I always go back and it's like the season's gonna kick off. It's really nice to have that extra guy, but there's this time right now which we're in that we're having a conversation about. So I'm willing to try. My guys are willing to try. I just don't want to be like, hey, we're closed the book on this. If we see burnout happen with staff moving forward, I want to at least come back and talk with committee about, yeah, maybe we do need to have another staff member come on board, especially in the future with additional administration building, the village hall gets redone, a lot of extra bathrooms, a lot of extra cleaning. I know me and Julie have had talks in the future about even adding more staff. But for now, I'm willing to try moving forward with this, and my guys are willing to try moving forward with this, so I don't have a problem with it.
So did we lose someone recently?
Yes, we had, Eric tends to lose people to the wastewater treatment plant, so he had somebody
that's
go
right,
over to the
somebody else
wastewater
moved
treatment
on.
plant. He's down a guy again.
Okay.
And
It's
then
the
Eric-
pay bump. I can't compete with them giving an extra $2 starting compared to what I can offer my staff, and I totally understand why.
Mhm. And then
But
Eric
it's a
wasn't,
little, it is a little frustrating losing staff to them.
Eric, wasn't the thought too that any extra work in summer would be picked up by that part-time seasonal guy that you have? We would just give him a little extra, like an
Yes,
extra
Julie,
day.
you're correct. So right now, Mike DeJulio works Wednesdays through Fridays. If we rolled with just what I have currently, I would ask committee to approve possibly having him work Tuesday too in the summer. So he would start in May and go to Fall Fest. That's what he typically does.
And he's okay with that, do you think? He'll take an extra day?
I haven't had that discussion with him. He's out in Colorado right now. I could have it when he's back.
I mean, it's nice to have that sort of flexibility. So I think what you're saying is we don't replace this position, but you keep the head count. So in other words, it's treated like a vacancy, I guess. I'm talking about for budgeting, of course, because this is gonna come up in a couple of months. And then also the current staff, we would take a look in personnel at some sort of a bump.
Yeah, can I just make a couple comments or maybe ask you your questions, Eric? I mean, first of all, I really admire you for thinking about this from a productivity perspective, being a budget hawk. This is in one way music to my ears, but I do worry about, I get that you're in a lull period for about 60 days. In a winter where we had a lot more snow, you might not be so quick to give them up. Or if we had all of these buildings, as you just mentioned. I also think there's a safety concern too, right? I'm not sure how you team up your folks and how you manage their work to make sure you've got teams wherever you can. I mean, is this something you're really comfortable with? Because we've got this in the budget, it's in the run rate. We expect to be a growing village community. I'm just really wondering, is this the right place for us to make a staffing reduction? I'm not sure. I'm just asking.
That rock and a hard place, Mike. That's what I struggle with. That's exactly, and you're exactly right. We're in that lull. I lost them in the lull, and I'm like thinking to myself, future wise, when we head into these seasons again, it might be more snow. I'm hoping, yeah, we'll see, but as far as like what I'm trying to do in the coldness is keep them going and being productive. And they've been crushing it. I mean, it's great that they have been. They're making it challenging for me. But I'm thinking on the side where you guys, I gotta give reports, and I want to be able to keep that momentum going and everything like that. So I'm kind of stuck here. And in a way, I don't want to be to a point where it's like, hey, what's going on with your report, type of thing. Or it's like, I got to keep them outside in this cold weather just to be, productive and everything like that. Or trudging through the snow in the ditch to cut trees down because that's all I got, type of thing. So it's like this balance of morale and this balance of productivity here. And I'm struggling with the future outlook of this balance.
coming from Eric as someone who hires employees and has a very seasonal business and how their hours can change from 50 hours a week to then 8 hours a week.
Mhm.
It's really, really a struggle to manage that and to talk to your staff about it and say, yeah, and I know most of them are very understanding because they live here and they understand how our seasons work and how changing it is. I guess my suggestion to this would be if you first talk to the seasonal person and if they're willing to increase their hours, maybe just by a day, like you said, I would be okay with this, you know, and then bringing it to the Personnel and Finance Committee. So I don't know what everyone else thinks.
I think I would be okay with it too, but I would ask you to ask yourself, are you concerned about finding a quality person? Are you concerned about losing somebody else to wastewater? And I'm not saying that that's gonna happen, but I would ask that you just not have that be part, we can find good people if we need good people, you know? And are you worried about losing people? Are you worried about attrition? That, sometimes that seeps into the thought process, and that's not I don't want an answer, I just something to think about. But if you extend Mike an extra day, now he's there 5 days versus, I mean,
Or
there's one extra day he's not working, you know? So then, but what you're also saying to us is that, you know, if this doesn't work, I want that person back. Right? Like, I don't want them, I want that head count there. Well, essentially, it's not, because from a budget standpoint, your number, when you look at it for 2025, is gonna be lower than what you might have to budget for 26, because you want that full-time person back.
Yeah, and you don't want to budget less and then find yourself in a situation.
Well, he's not doing the budget yet, but for our eyes,
Right,
why is
you
your,
wanna
you
have
know,
that head count.
You don't want him to look like a bad guy when he's really being a good guy.
why is your,
Exactly.
you know, yeah, why is your payroll
Understand
going up?
your position.
So that needs to be noted, and of course it would, but why is your payroll going up?
Yeah.
So these are all things to think about.
Have we ever thought out of the box about maybe making these salaried positions? Are they bargaining unit?
They're not bargaining unit, but by state law, they define salaried position, they have to be supervising people, et cetera, so.
I mean, it just would be nice if we could offer them some, you know, either they work overtime or we give them comp time. If, or some other way of paying them so that they don't have to work in the months where there's a low utilization, but they're here when we really need them. I don't know, for one person, it sure would be nice if we could find a creative way to make life easier for these guys. Cause I'm a little afraid we take the person away and then somebody gets hurt on his staff and he's in trouble again.
That would be another concern too, and I did talk to those guys about that. If an injury was to occur or life change happens and one of these guys was to depart, I brought that up with them too, and they were like, and they expressed to me as like, as long as you get on the interviews right away and, you know, help out. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You know, I would, you know, me and Julie would do what we could to replace that person, almost try to do it almost immediately, but that takes time, you know.
It does, yeah. And if
Well,
you're-
and also you have to train them.
Yeah, and if you're in an emergency situation, you just can't hire the first person you interview, and then like Louise said, there's a training process.
Training is
as well.
huge. It's just huge. And I'm sure quite a bit of that's done by you, but it's also done by one of your team members, which takes time away from, you know,
Other
the
things,
job they're
yeah.
supposed to be, which I know you partner up. I mean, and I'm not questioning at all what that plan would be. So we have a couple of choices. We could send this over to, we could send it over to personnel and just run the numbers on what it would cost to make a, you know,
Mhm.
to do the raise. But nonetheless, you still have, in the summer, you got, you know, one person working an extra day.
Right, and to be honest, our summers are not getting less busy,
No, they are.
right? So it's,
Mm-mm.
you always need to prepare.
And you
It
brought
just
this
feels
up,
like we
actually.
could absorb 2 months of them being a little less
I think we're trying to
utilized.
talk ourselves out of doing this personally, but the other thing that you brought up, and I, you know, and I think we all know this, it was, you know, maybe not necessarily said, Buzz, but you don't know what it's gonna take to maintain the Parks building. And that's a big unknown, and if it does open in what, May or June, something like that. I don't know, the one thing about hiring somebody now is it gives you the time to train them. Even if it's snowy, gives them the time to orient and to meet people and to bond with the team and to understand what the standard operating procedure is. And, that can be an uphill climb. It's like, where's this? What do I do with this? How do I? So what do you think, Julie?
I personally think that the department should be reduced to 3 full-time staff, the part-time and the seasonal. And we don't keep the door open because that, if it doesn't work out, we come back and add that other person. And I say that because, they're willing to take on more work, have more rotations, they would like a little bump in pay. I don't ever think it's good to give an employee a bump in pay and take it away a year later when we say, oh, we need to bring somebody back. I think that's bad for
Well,
morale.
we talk about that. I mean, how could we do that? That would be,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's bad for morale and you actually lose employees. So I think if the decision just has to be made that it goes down to 3 full-time, the 1 part-time and the 1 seasonal. And then of course, the wage gets adjusted like Eric had requested, and that's not something we can really decide, but I think that's how you proceed at this point.
I'm really uncomfortable with this. I mean, again, Eric, I think the world of what you're doing. I'm not sure it's a good move, but I'll defer to the leadership. It might be, maybe it's a good idea to send it to personnel. They would have more expertise.
well,
as
maybe
far
we
as
just,
training.
I mean, you got time, well, we don't, you do have time if you want to, if we are going to do a search, you want to put it out there. But, we could take it to personnel, I mean, we could, personnel, we're personnel meeting in 2 days, we could.
I mean, are we getting this right, Eric? The big problem you're trying to solve is right now they're underutilized and you're having a hard time keeping them busy.
Yeah.
I don't have time. I don't have trouble right now. My concern is future production in between the months of January and March.
Next year.
And when you fill that vacant spot.
Well, that's always going to be hard to predict too, because we don't know what winter's going to be like.
Well, it wasn't before because they had a lot of catch-up work to do, but they're
Yeah.
caught up. But the other thing is, you don't know what kind of, well, I guess I mean,
Won't we be overwhelmed by the setup in the new facility?
that's May.
Okay.
But it
Yeah,
is still
it's
May,
gonna
you're
be
right, you
that
don't
big,
have an
yeah.
extra body there for.
You already have the money budgeted and this year's already budgeted. The money is there for full-time. Just authorize not filling the position, see how it goes. We'll know by fall whether or not this works
That might
out.
be a good idea.
The money's there.
He didn't lose it then, so he could just defer it
True,
and we'd still have it in the run rate if he
Yeah.
needed it later.
right.
Yeah, we
kind
can
of-
see how staff handles the summer. That's going to be the big indication for me. I know these guys well enough to know when something's bothering them, and then I can rehab this conversation with them again to see, if this was a good idea.
But are we still gonna pass your suggested rate increases or suggest to you what their rate increases would be if we're gonna not replace it right away, right?
Why don't we hold off on a rate increase if we're going to keep the option open for now? And then maybe at the end of the season, we can see and then have another discussion about it.
Are you gonna be okay with that?
I'll be
Can I-
okay with it.
When I propose this, just think about this and everybody think about this, and then, again, it's different committee's decision, but if you give them a bump in pay and then you end up bringing somebody back and you end up taking that bump away, it's not fair to the employee. I think it's bad for morale, like we
Oh,
talked
it's
about.
really bad.
However, what we have done is, let's say when Tasha left, somebody had to do that work, so there's like a
do a
monthly, like a
That's a good
monthly.
idea.
I don't call it bonus, but you get extra money every month because you're filling in somebody's absence. You could do that through the summer, and by fall, you're gonna know, what do we need to do move forward? That's gonna affect the 2026 budget. We can address it at that time.
Can I
This fall, you would bake in the bonus as a wage increase and not increase, or take away the bonus and add a person. So that way you're
Right.
proposing.
Yeah, so
How do we evaluate people annually though? Are they eligible for any type of?
they get a step
We have a
increase,
step.
so we have a compensation schedule.
Yeah,
And if you perform successfully, you
Right.
go up a step in that compensation.
so
schedule.
we're talking now a second part of this, beyond staffing, we're saying. We want it, I guess, have we promised them an increase or what, I mean, why would they get,
Doesn't
is
sound
it a
like
market adjustment because we can't stay competitive or?
No.
Why would we be giving them another increase if we just did this temporarily?
What we're saying is, because they're now picking up, they're gonna be working more of their weekends, right? They're gonna be away from their family more,
In this temporary period that he's talking about, they will be?
yeah, because they're gonna go down to they're rotating every 3 weeks. They're gonna be covering more of
This
the
is the
event,
period where we're not gonna replace the full-time person and evaluate as the season progresses, yes.
Okay.
and then give them that monthly, or again, that's up to the committee to decide, but do they get maybe an extra, I don't know, $200, $300 a month or something because they're covering that position? Seeing how they adjust, can we get by in this fashion? If we can, then that has to be addressed next fall when you're looking at the budget.
I'm good.
So, just to reiterate. It's, Eric, make sure I'm right about this. You're gonna test this without any type of compensation change for the existing staff. By test, I mean, we're not gonna replace this full-time person who's moved over to, sewer, to sewer and water. And then, I guess at some, not I guess, at some point in June or July, when things start heating up a bit, and there's a lot more work to do, or even August, then we can reconvene and talk about, okay, this is hard. This isn't working very well, or we're doing okay here,
Yeah,
and talk about additional compensation. Am I right? Is that what we're talking about?
so Eric will just have to report back
Yeah.
to the committee
Yeah.
and see how things are going. And then
You got it all but what Julia just discussed. So what basically happened was when Dan Klansky left, they gave me and Megan that bonus
Mhm.
because we had to take on his extra workload. It would almost be like that bonus would start happening for these guys while, as we're heading into the season. And then after, the season, we can reconvene and talk about this and
Well, that's-
see how it all played out.
Okay.
And
That's
then,
November.
a discussion, if they say, hey, it worked, let's keep going with this, then we can go to personnel and say, maybe we can make this bonus, somewhat permanent with them, give them a bump. Or if they're experiencing too much burnout with the extra workload, I can have a discussion with them, say, hey, guys, I'm seeing this ain't working. We need somebody else coming on. The bonus goes away and we budget again for 26 for a fourth staff member to come on the team.
Yeah, and I think if we're asking 3 people to do the work of 4, it's only appropriate that they get some sort of extra compensation.
Yeah.
And it might be called summer compensation or something, additional summer compensation or something. That is something you can look at annually, only occurs during those busy months.
Am I
And
still
yeah,
gonna?
if you want to save the bonus for the season kicks off in May. So that's when the bathrooms, that's when the Super Bowl starts for us. So,
Yep.
I
And you're
that
gonna still extend Mike one more day, right, to that Tuesday?
yes, I would like to extend him so I got him for 4 days a week instead of 3.
And he's experienced and. Okay, do we need a motion for
Yeah,
this?
because you have to, okay, so is this what you guys want to say? That the recommendation is made to the personnel committee that the full-time staff person position that is currently vacant in the Parks Maintenance Department not be filled this year on the condition that the existing part-time seasonal position will be extended from 3 days per week to 4 days per week on a trial basis. In the meantime, the existing Parks Department line workers shall each receive a bonus of And did you want that to be $250?
No,
I
that
think
was
the Personnel committee tells us
Okay.
So that'll be referred to the
Okay.
personnel committee to determine the summer bonus.
an increase to measure it with the extra work.
Okay, we'll each receive a bonus.
I would call it summer
Summer
pay.
bonus is fine, yeah, season bonus, whatever. Mhm.
Yeah, well,
Each receive a
that's-
seasonal
The season
bonus.
is, yeah, because it's gonna
Season pay.
work, I mean, fall's busy too.
Okay, it is commensurate, whoop. The level of work performed. Okay. And this arrangement will be reviewed in mid-October.
No, November first.
Okay.
In November, probably the November first meeting, maybe. This
Well, you
has
probably
to
have
do
to
with
look
that.
at, you'll have to at least look at it next week's budget
They
time,
both-
right?
Well, that's
Committees
July and August, yeah.
by mid-November.
Uh-huh.
Julie, why don't we is it just that much higher skill? Is that why the entry salary is higher at the water department?
They actually need certificate, well, it's always been viewed that that's health and safety because it's the water you're drinking
Mhm,
versus a recreational thing.
mhm.
And then the other one is they do need certifications and they have to maintain them.
Okay.
They have to have wastewater treatment certifications. Eric and I did talk about training that would be required of the parks crew. Again, it's not the same thing. It's not like a degree you have to have or a certification. But like, maybe they're taking courses in recreational management or conferences. Because to me, it's important for an employee to see the whole big round picture. You know, maybe I only.
So
work
you'd
in-
like to rotate the employees between water department and parks department? Is
No.
that- Oh, I thought that's where you were headed. I'm sorry.
No, I just
Excuse
think
me.
that, we talked about the parks employees being required to take X amount of education or conferences a year.
Within their scope.
Within their field, and then that would get them a little bump in pay, because I do think it's important they see the big, well-rounded picture versus I know how to mow and I have to
Yeah,
go to
I
the
agree.
parks.
Okay.
What is the impact of that mowing on public perception and overall recreational program?
Okay, so moved. Do a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
Okay.
What a well-written motion.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you, Judy.
Good,
I've been doing
better.
better
You
myself.
should write them on the internet so other people tell them to people.
Are you gonna drop off? Because if you are, I have a quick question for you that would be part of your staff report.
Lee, did you?
No, I'm not
say-
dropping off. Go ahead.
Lily.
Jerry did, okay.
Jerry is there.
All right, thanks. I just had a quick question. I just didn't know if you had to leave. Okay. Okay, so we're on to staff reports.
You want to take Eric's first?
Sure, you can. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has questions. I just had a few.
Was Eric's report with the LED proposal or is that?
Yeah, he has that in there. That's part of it. Before we get to that. if you
Okay,
don't
I'm
mind,
sorry.
my
Apologize.
question was, I think that, in terms of the ice rink, first of all, thank you for including the recap for that and keep that up. Let's ask, let's ask him for some numbers on, attendance, and if he needs a counter, like click, click, click. I think SBA has an extra one, otherwise I do. And he can just do it, just a rough estimate, clicking like who's there, that could be great. It's also great if we want grants later to take counts and not have to kind of guess or make it up. The other thing is too, that, I think that, if he could try to do, especially this week, I think it's gonna be cold all week, to do some fires out there. Cause I think we finally got some wood out there. If you gotta ask him about that.
Yeah, I can ask him.
Yeah, it gets a little chilly.
James dropped wood off.
He did? Oh, okay.
We're using Larson for this. Couldn't we find anybody else?
James, it's so unrealistic. So I didn't say that, James. But, so here's my other question. I was driving when I drove over here today. So and thank you. I know it's a lot of work. We take care of the sidewalks, but because it was so wet today, you know how, I think you know what I mean, because I'm not gonna describe it very well. But the sidewalks, they can't get them like completely scraped, so there's like little, they're slushy, right? and there's little like, if this has to do with a piece of machinery that we
Cut out of
decided not to
budget?
buy.
Yeah.
Okay, I was afraid of that, so I'm not gonna ask that question. Because it's the same in front of your business, in front of Husby's and everywhere. And I thought to myself, well, when it goes down to 12 degrees tonight, that's not gonna be fun tomorrow morning. Right, so this is
The
because.
guys did go out and sweep. They are down to the concrete now.
They are.
The blower struggles to get it down. We don't put the cut blade all the way down because it hits the
Okay.
grooves of the sidewalk, but
Okay.
then they go out and sweep.
All right, because I was like, oh boy, that's gonna be tricky. And I just didn't, it's the first kind of slushy snow we've had the rest of it's been so light, I was able to sweep my front walk. It was simple,
Yeah,
not
well,
today.
and I don't think every community or town does.
They
their
do not, they do
sidewalks,
not.
Right, like we do it because we decided to do
Well, we've
so.
talked about
You're the only
not
one
doing
I'm
it.
aware of.
Yeah, usually the owner,
We've,
yeah.
we've something to think about for budget work,
So
but thank you. It was,
for that.
it's a lot of work. Yeah, as I was trudging on the sloppy sidewalk in Bailey's Harbor, Dave. Anyway, okay, those are my questions. And then it sounds like you have a question about the lighting.
Well, I looked at that, I've seen a lot of those proposals in the past, and again, whether it was Julie or Eric, I mean, I admire the fact that we're looking at productivity and cost reduction. Based on my experience with doing these LED conversions, there is a wide range of quality in terms of the suppliers that do the work. They typically have wide-ranging accuracy in their savings calculation. Some will actually allow you to fund it out of savings if we wanted to make it an expense rather than a capital project. And then the other issue, and I did look, these are the models that both allow you to adjust luminance and brightness. So you can switch them from soft to bright light, you know, change the luminance. It's all controllable. However, in some of the plants where we put these systems, we had trouble with people who had some forms of epilepsy or got migraine headaches. So, I mean, you have to just think about the consequences if that's something that you do. And this industry kind of has this, a lot of times they'll produce, I don't know how we got their quote, but a lot will do unsolicited quotes. They just show up. They especially target people who don't have strong supply chain organizations that can really hold them accountable to the technical specifications, installation cost, and then delivering on the savings numbers. That was just my comment, having done that many times.
Yeah. What do you think of it, Eric?
Well, Julie, she sent me this guy's email, so yeah, I saw he did free audits, so I figured, hey, what the heck? Come on out. I got a couple of buildings you can take a look at. You know, running through like Mike was saying, it's like, yeah, it looks good. I don't have a whole wealth of experience like with the models that they use to determine this type of stuff. I mean, it's all well and good. I figured since I had them come out, I'd present it, see what everybody else thought about this. You know, it doesn't seem like it's gonna break the bank or anything like that moving forward. I know the post office is due for a lighting upgrade in there. And then, you know, with the sports complex, I didn't know if there was plans moving forward with a new warming house, but here's an opportunity, you know, moving forward, if you wanted to get out the old light bulbs and fixtures in there, here's another proposal. It's more like a food for thought process. I mean, currently right now, I mean, the warming house is being utilized quite a bit. In the summer, it sits with its lights pretty much off all year. And the main one would be the post office, probably, because that one's using the most juice. That's every single day.
Do they, at the post office, has anybody expressed a concern about not being able to see very well? Or, I mean, I've been in there many times, but you know it's fine for me, but working there and stuff.
The postmasters do one heck of a job of picking up their phones almost immediately when a light goes out, and we're on the double to get a retro kit in there. My guys are also experienced in doing these retro kits too, so we have been, as a light goes out, we've been retrofitting them with these LED lights too. So my guys have experience doing this. I probably wouldn't be able to get them as cheap if I wanted to go ahead and do this as like a winter project. It also, the post office probably would not want me to do it because I couldn't dedicate my guys to get in there and do it as quick as a contractor probably could do it. As he expressed to me, they could probably get it done within 3 to 5 hours. So
Does their proposal, which I saw the savings calculations, but so they include labor, parts and installation, so they include the installation, labor and the parts?
yes, turnkey, I think is what they called it.
I mean, could you do a building where you measured their accuracy on the savings? Like the post office, would it have like its own utility bill so you could see if it really saved you what they promised?
Julie, do you know if they are paying their utility or is that part of their lease agreement that we pay the utility
I
on
think
that?
that they're supposed to pay I think they pay their utility.
Okay.
Or, I mean, I think it's,
So it's kind of, yeah, okay.
yeah, I do think they pay their own utility.
They do?
I think they do.
Well, we'd like to Mike's point, like we have a building, we could isolate, like maybe the current administrative offices building where we could
True.
have them do it, see if it's actually getting the savings before going everywhere.
And it's not something that people have issues with. I'm sure they're putting lights like this in the new parks building.
Julie, what do you think of this?
Well, we're always looking,
Everything under the sun.
yeah, we're always looking at ways to cut costs, be more efficient. Eric and I talked about dark sky friendly lighting, had him reach back and tell him on one of these, it was just too high, you have to reduce the Kevlar on it, but, I think the buildings they did, I'll be honest with you, I think are older things that need an upgrade anyway. So if you can get it through a program where, like Mike said, whether you're really
But
not
do we pay them or is it a pay from savings lease? I couldn't tell. Is it a pay or?
I don't know that. I think we'd have
Okay.
to look at those options, but I'm like, these are, in my mind, old buildings that we know are inefficient. Let's try it. Let's see what we get. Let's see what kind of cost savings. Don't touch any of the new buildings, like the fire station or these library things where.
It might just
we don't
be
wanna
nice
mess
to
with it.
negotiate that they do a test site.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good idea, Mike, to see. Let's do a test site and see if this is real. And if it is, we'll talk again next year.
Well, it sounds like the post office would be the best place, except we don't really realize the savings.
Well, we'd still know, we'd still see the
True,
utility
true,
bill,
I
because it
gotcha.
would still come through the village.
Okay.
The savings would be in the maintenance because also in theory, the life of these things and the reliability
Well,
is
post
higher.
office can't
Would be
object,
longer.
maybe they'll sign a new lease. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Eric has a good point, if he's not running down there nonstop to switch out the lights, it might.
Well, that's a saving.
But that one with the post office, because of you might have to be careful that they're comfortable with the light. But if you have the supplier come in, interview them, then they can set the luminance, they can set the brightness, they can set the lighting style, because I think in the post office where people have to read a lot of stuff, they're gonna be really particular.
Right, that's why I
About the
wondered
light.
if they had been complaining, because that's one place where
Yeah,
you have to read a lot of print.
I'm not aware of any complaints about their lighting. Eric, do you think that if there's one that you think would be more, we'd benefit more from doing a trial on? Or do you think that is the post office?
I think the post office would be your best trial because that is more consistently used. The sports complex would be tough because it's very infrequent. So you'd almost have to keep the lights on for a trial period I'd have to go there right now. I'd have to instruct Andrew, hey, don't turn these lights off. We're gonna run a test. We're gonna run a test for a month or two and leave them on. And then they can do just the warming entrance for the public. Hey, come on in, change these out. We want to run a test. And then we can see. We can leave those on for another 2 months. And then I can bring that information back to the committee. that would be good. It probably wouldn't hassle the post office too much. But for right now, your best bet for, lights being on to get more accurate numbers is the post office.
There's a couple good reasons to do it there, yeah.
I mean, we're
And
always.
I also thought too, putting this together, we're like Julie said, we're always looking for ways to make things more efficient, green. And, I figured, hey, why not? And to bring this information, this is a nice little upgrade. This is just something small. Say, hey, look at what we did for this building here. Instead of just letting it just go completely downhill and never trying to do anything with anything.
Does this help us with green tier, Lily?
I mean, yeah,
No, there's always-
Your energy consumption will be, especially if they're old lighting systems, your energy consumption drops
Well,
dramatically.
it helps us with green tier certification, certainly, that's a bonus.
right, yeah, I mean, I'm sure this is conversation that we might having around here.
So what would the next steps be?
Eric just has to, get a hold of them and let them know which one we'd be interested in personally.
Okay, and then they give us a quote, or what?
Yeah, I think it's actually in there.
Yeah,
And
I
then
thought it was, I didn't know if
Yeah,
it would
the
change
different
or.
quotes are
it
different.
may change
there-
if you're only doing one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Louise.
Mhm.
And he does have to talk to the post office,
Yeah, of course, right. Okay,
So,
Right.
because this is in a staff report, it's not an actionable item. So Eric, if you can take that direction and then come back for an action item next month, we can do that.
So as far as the committee wants to have happen right now, you want which building to have this test trial ran in?
Post office.
post office.
Post office. And are you only doing the section of the post office that's available to the public as far as a trial? Or you want the whole post office?
Yeah, I did the whole thing, because the people that work there are the ones that probably need it more than anyone in terms of better lighting.
And your utility bill isn't gonna separate out those areas. It's like one for the whole property.
No, but what
Yeah,
they.
that's true.
you
That
can
would,
ask- Eric, you can ask them, they can sometimes put monitors on the circuits,
okay.
because they do that if they do pay from savings contracts. They might be able to measure that. So rather than use the utility bill to measure the savings, you may be able to use their monitors. You'd have to ask them.
So you want Eric to contact the postmaster and representatives of NCLED and then report his findings at the next meeting, or go ahead and
It'll
do
come
it?
back to us, and then it'll be an action item on the
Yeah, there's
next,
no
Okay.
action.
on the next,
Okay,
agenda. You know,
Janelle, can you get the utility bills for us for that property for the next meeting?
sure.
So in my report, big things are, landscaper did revise it according for that Mill Road West property. He did revise it the way we wanted. Of course, as we know, the cost went up again. So that plan is in there. It's 5,200. That project would start in May.
Right.
Okay.
And I did look at it, but what trees did we switch to from
We
those
did
spots?
the
No, I just-
Yellow juniper
We
something.
did
I have
boxwood.
to look, it's in the minutes.
I
So
thought we
look in
took the
minutes.
boxwood out.
No, boxwood are still
Okay.
there.
Box and golden mop cypress.
There we go,
Okay.
golden
Took out
mop
the juniper.
cypress. We
Oh,
took out
thank
the
you.
juniper.
Yeah.
It's in the minutes of the last.
Yeah,
meeting.
I
Good Lord,
did read it,
It's
but
like
my
a
memory's not
50
that good.
65-35 or 55-45. split
65,
between
35,
65-35.
But you counted it on there, they striped them in good.
Yeah,
And then for Chris Crindle Market, I did meet with John Nelson from the Historical Society. And then as a result of our conversation, I did reach out to Liberty Grove to see if they could put no parking signs further down 57 on their part of the highway to help with things. And we talked about reserve deputy. We offered to help them this past year. They didn't think they needed. He said, no, I think I do. So this coming year, they're probably gonna look at it.
great.
Bay Lake Regional Planning has grant money. They're helping us with the phase 2 assessment. on the Wiltsey property, which basically is remediation of contaminated soils. Cemetery billing, we always budget about $5,000 for that. It was a whopping 8,024, so we were a little surprised.
What is
You know,
that?
I have to
What
tell you-
changed?
I think the lack of maintenance, and I think it built up. Because there was, I think I saw it on Facebook, actually. There was a post that someone made, I don't know who it was, I wouldn't say the name anyway. But who had gone, and I don't know if they had a loved one there or a friend or whatever, and it was not in the best shape. And because it's in Sister Bay and it's really not in Sister Bay, there was a question, and so whomever it was that responded on Facebook said that's a Liberty Grove thing. I think it was, maybe it needed a little bit more tender loving care, and once that happens, then you go back to like make up for what you should have done in your yard.
Could be a good volunteer day project.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is it's, matter of fact, Steve was one of the guys that did this. Some of the older cemeteries that are attached to, some of our churches, they've had volunteers come in and dig up and have to raise the headstones because that's not what she was discussing. I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting that in the least. But
The work
there's
it does from settling and
Yeah,
ground.
that
movements,
stuff just, I
erosion.
mean, that was he and Steve and two or three other guys took them all summer.
I do think this was, when you look at the invoice, there was a lot of vegetation clearing and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So
Yeah, I think it
some-
was, so hopefully that'll be,
Yeah.
that maintenance will be kept up with. I don't know.
And then just the finance committee referred two things to you, which, should be on your next agenda. One was a discussion on wayfinding signage.
I'm
and
sorry,
then-
Julie, on what signage?
Wayfinding.
Okay, yeah.
And then, future use of the current parks maintenance facility. What's the role?
We do, yeah. Okay, any questions on either one of the reports? Okay.
No, it was just very nice to see a focus on cost reduction. So Eric, thanks, Julie, thanks.
Like, you'd actually be surprised how much we focus on. that.
Well, I think you have to be talking about it. We have to be telling our
Yeah.
village residents about it. I think it's important,
It is.
'cause especially right now.
Yeah, I know when we do the annual report, I always stress to staff, make sure you point out the money you're saving and
Mhm.
how much that saved and,
Mhm.
so and I think Eric and Megan did do a good job with that this year.
Most of their annual reports are good. I agree.
It's a matter of how we get that public, because I think people are all doing the right
Newsletter.
things,
I have an
but
idea.
it's not.
I
getting
have an
out to the
idea on
public.
how to do the newsletter. That where it wouldn't be a big, huge, this is more for the village board meeting, but where it wouldn't be a lot of heavy lifting by the by staff. If we do a template, and I was talking to someone in another municipality on how they do it, and it doesn't have to go out every month or anything, but that's something that we could communicate that way. And send either Sevastopol sends theirs, I think, hard copy. I don't know if they do it digitally, but maybe we could do both, although ideally it'd be good to do it digitally, and then we can try to improve our database a bit. And that also helps us with communication.
Yeah, I think digitally is the way to go. And I think, to me, as long as it's not thou shalt have this every once a month or whatever,
No,
you
once a
have
quarter.
more success, because then you're only putting important stuff in there that people
Yeah.
really read.
Unless there's something really important to communicate, like a press
Right.
release, for example, that should go in a newsletter as well. And not just in a press release that only goes out on
Right.
social media.
So once a quarter, and it's, whether it's, again, then, we're, the topics of interest we're all residents.
Mhm.
We all know and we all think everybody knows what's going on. Because
Well,
we
what-
are kind of involved anyway.
Sorry for interrupting, but
Yep.
what Denise did when she did the newsletter.
Yep.
Is she had a requirement that each committee chair had to
Wrote
give her,
something?
wrote something, had to give her an article.
Okay.
And then her and I cleaned them up,
Okay,
but then that took it off of us.
yeah. I don't think
But
staff
then
should
the
have to,
committee
absolutely
chairs
not.
didn't-
And I do
didn't
not
do
think
it.
that staff should have to. This is something that, first of all, we need the template. We need the outline of it, the structure of it, and that, which I cannot work in Canva. However, we could figure that out, and then there's the structure, and then we come up with just the basic layout, and, okay, this is what, somebody has to own it, so we can talk about that at the next board meeting. Okay, let's see, what's next? Matters to be placed on future agenda or referred to a committee official or employee.
We show public space audits. And the report from Eric on the lighting test site.
And then wayfinding signage, future use of the current parks maintenance.
When was the last time we had Friends of the Ice Rink here? Was it December, November?
We haven't, yeah, I guess maybe November, December.
Remember,
Be good to get an update, well, maybe after winter, like March or. Yeah, maybe
April?
March or April.
Our next one's March.
I'm trying to, yeah, it wasn't that long ago, I know that.
Yeah,
But I get it confused with the board, because what they've been at the board meeting.
yeah,
True.
it'd be nice to see how, like, the season went, that it has been open more than last season. And
Right.
just an update on how they're doing
Mhm.
fundraising and such.
More, oh, yeah, because I was gonna say Eric had that in his report, which was good, but it's not the fundraising.
Yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah, and Andrew's the one that needs to give us revenue and people that are attending, but not fundraising in their work with the foundation, right?
I forgot, there's the joint meeting with the members of the Green Tier.
And Green Tier, right,
Yeah.
on that volunteer day.
Legacy Committee.
Mhm.
If they're
Okay,
able to meet, because Mary is in the hospital and Lisa is still in the room. And Kurt's going on vacation.
I can, what I could, I mean, we could put it on there and then I can ask Miles if they're prepared to do that, to give us a status update.
Let's
Do that.
status update on the
Okay.
ice rink.
On Friends of the Ice Rink,
Okay.
on their progress. Okay, next meeting is March 3rd. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Everybody.
Lily, when you were talking, I was trying to remember who I talked to yesterday, and they were, it was about